So hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is the son of Tsunade and Madara. If you guys enjoy this, what if? Comment down below. And let me know before I start, please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends. And check out the description. And check out my playlist. So let's start the video. Chapter 1, Valley of the End. When he set out with the team to bring Sasuke back, Naruto was hopeful and fully prepared to do whatever it took to bring his misguided friend back. As always, he had given it all he had, without any regard for his health and the enemy he had to face off against, doing everything that was needed and more to get to Sasuke. Caring not for the fatigue after the chase and fighting members of Sound 4, Kimimaro and then even a full squad of Sound Chuninins that Orochimaru had dispatched for the support of Sasuke, with the latter Naruto being forced to face off alone. As a result, after all of this, Naruto had arrived exhausted and tired, having been forced to fight several members of Sound 4, Seiken, Yukin and Kidomaru, when his teammates were taken out and had caught up to him, not to mention the said squad. Sasuke had taunted Naruto for his fatigue and what appeared to be inability to even fight, as he had sustained a few wounds already, and yet Naruto had proved him wrong. Without any care for his fatigue and injuries, Naruto attacked Sasuke and proceeded to fight the empowered and merciless Uchiha survivor, and although he was outclassed and outmatched, Naruto still didn't make it easy for Sasuke. For a few instances, it appeared as if he would be able to win. But those illusions were dispelled when Sasuke had completely stopped holding back and instead went on ahead with killing blows, burning Naruto and trying to break his neck and spine. The pain and agony were enough to make him black out for a second, and only Fox's chakra kept him going, for his own reserves were terribly low. As much as Naruto was hopeful and foolish, even he knew that he was not going to last long, especially with the way Sasuke was going at him, and he was right. The moment Sasuke had created Chidori, Naruto knew that his luck had run out because he had nothing to offer against it, and as for Fox's chakra, it had stopped supplying his organism. He did not know why or how, but that did not matter to Naruto at that moment. What did matter was that his supposed best friend had run his killing technique into his chest, right into his heart, and that was it for him. Is that all you had in you, dope? I'm disappointed, but at the very least, I now have what it takes to beat Itachi, the same eyes that he had. Naruto heard Sasuke speak as he looked with his dying gaze into the eyes of Sasuke, seeing that they were changing in form before his eyes had finally closed. Having removed the last thing that stopped him from obtaining the power that was rightfully his, Sasuke felt like a chain that stopped him broke, and freed from it, he discarded Naruto's corpse without a care in the world, tossing it into the river below. And after that he finally departed for Orochimaru, without even noticing as two figures watched the whole thing transpire, their gaze directed towards the floating corpse of one of the last Uzumaki. When they saw his supposed sensei finally arrive and pick up the corpse, the pair departed without a trace, knowing that it was still too early to do anything. Several hours later. Office of Hokage. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the elderly third Hokage of Konohagakure, was sitting in his chair with a grim expression on his face as he read the mission report for one more time. To say that it was a failure would be an understatement because it was a complete disaster, one of the worst possible outcomes that he could have imagined. Their last Uchiha was now gone from them, with Kiba Inuzuka dead and Neji Hyuga on the brink of death, with others receiving various other wounds and injuries, with only the Sand siblings managing to save them. However, what was even worse than that was the fact that Naruto Uzumaki was dead, presumably killed by Sasuke himself, and this single fact threw such a wrench into his and fourth Hokage's plans that it completely destroyed it. Even Orochimaru's invasion with the betrayal of Suna was not as damaging to the grand scheme of things as this fact, for Hiruzen was able to survive thanks to Jiraiya being near him and evening out the odds against Orochimaru. He was still weakened and injured, hence why Naruto and Jiraiya had set out to bring Tsunade back, with Jiraiya also testing out Naruto to find out how strong and good he was. When they returned and third Hokage was healed, Hiruzen learned that Naruto was far better than he had expected and wanted him to be, even with all the measures taken to hamper his growth and emergence of his talents. They didn't need Naruto to be powerful, intelligent and mighty like his father, nor was he even meant to live for long, for he was nothing more than a diversion against their enemies, a bait with only a small portion of the nine-tailed fox sealed in him. Because of his disposable status, as well as for the sake of secrecy and the plan that he, Jiraiya, Minato and Kushina had made, Naruto abandoned and left to fend off for himself against the vengeful and cruel people of Konoha, who were subtly directed towards Naruto as the prime reason for village's sufferings. A lie and a cruel one, but a necessary one for the survival of the village and its future prosperity, and he had gone even further when he had the boy's mind forcefully altered and changed to make him far more susceptible and easier to control. It had to be done when Naruto showed signs of unnatural maturity and genius that Minato possessed, and this was far too dangerous to be allowed to remain, hence why Hiruzen had his Anbu make sure that Naruto was altered in a way that suited him. Now, however, he was regretting his decision a little, wondering if he had allowed him to be as smart as he was, would he have survived this fight or not. Letting out a tired sigh and smoking his pipe, Hiruzen put down the report and closed his eyes before speaking up. "This is far too soon," he stated before opening his eyes and looking at his former student Jiraiya. "Are you certain that the twins still haven't mastered Kyuubi's chakra?" No, and no matter how hard they had tried, and whatever Minato and Kushina had done, they couldn't control Kyuubi's chakra, and what's worse, because of Naruto being dead, the rest of Kyuubi's soul is either going to return back to the rest of him, or reform somewhere else 9 years later as a completely separate entity. Jiraiya stated while shaking his head. "You shouldn't have sent that brat after the Uchiha, old man. We both knew that with the cursed mark and his training from Haddock, Naruto stood no chance, so why did you dispatch him?" "Because that is what the council had demanded, and unless we wanted to reveal to them the fact that we had lied and played them like fools, I had to go along with their demand," Hiruzen said with a harsh tone. "And how do you think they would take to the fact that Minato and Kushina are alive and well in the capital, serving as daimyo's personal guards and also training the real Jinchuriki, while their village suffers and toils? We've already made preparations in case it becomes known," Jiraiya reminded him, with Hiruzen shaking his head to him. Orochimaru and his invasion had changed that, and if before the people and the council were far more accepting of this sudden revelation, now they were made more extreme and angered, and they are far less ready to believe what we have to say. Hiruzen stated to him, before blowing his pipe. As much as they had hated Naruto's existence, thanks to us, once their immediate jubilation subsides, they'll not be happy with the fact that they've lost their supposed greatest weapon, the nine-tailed fox, which had been in our village since Hashirama defeated it and Madara. We are going to have to talk to Minato and inform him about what had happened. Chances are, though, in a few days he'll know what had happened, but in the meantime, what would you say to the council about the mission, and what will you do about the Uchiha?" Jiraiya asked him. "I lay the blame with Naruto, since he did fail in capturing Sasuke Uchiha and preventing him from going to Orochimaru. The council will be more than happy to make him the scapegoat, and there is nothing to indicate that Shikamaru Nara and others will try to stand up for him," Hiruzen stated. "As for the Suna siblings, I doubt they'll risk the newly re-established alliance between Suna and Konoha just to preserve the memory of the now-dead failure." Jiraiya nodded to him about it. "And what about Uchiha?" Toad Sage asked him. "Leave him be, for now. We can deal with him and Orochimaru when we have the chance, for now your priority is to monitor those Akatsuki you reported the last time. We have far too little intel about them, and since it is clear that they are interested in tailed beasts, they'll no doubt be after Menma and Natsu once it becomes known that they are alive," Hiruzen stated to him. "Focus your efforts on uncovering what they are really after and what their members are. Utilize the source I have inside of them, if you have to. Will do, but what about?" At that moment, the door into the office opened up, with Tsunade walking inside, forcing Jiraiya and Hiruzen to cease their discussions, for Tsunade wasn't in on their plan. "Hey there, Suna. You are looking as beautiful as ever," Jiraiya jokingly said, though the moment he saw her grim look, he shut up. "Tsunade, what's the status of the injured?" Hiruzen asked her. "Taoji will make the recovery, but the extent of his injuries and internal damage will put him out of service for a few months, but Hyuga didn't make it," Tsunade reported with a tired and detached expression. "And as for Naruto, I think we already know what has happened to him. No need to talk about that failure," Jiraiya said, as he didn't want to discuss it, before Tsunade grabbed him by his collar and brought him close to her eyes. Suna, what are you? How the hell do you have the gall or balls to talk about him like that, you worthless piece of shit?" At that moment, Tsunade let out a rage and anger by punching Jiraiya in the gut, nearly forcing him to puke and drop on his knees. "You took that kid under your wing, taught him that damned Rasengan, made him actually believe he had a chance at becoming the Hokage, and now you call him a failure and dismiss him like trash." Tsunade screamed at him and then kneaded Jiraiya in his face before preparing to beat him to death had it not been for the Anbu appearing all around her. "Tsunade, that is enough." Hiruzen ordered her to stand down, with the Anbu disappearing. What Jiraiya said was wrong, but what is done, and there is no point in talking about it. Tsunade wasn't satisfied with how he spoke and instead strode to him and looked him directly in the eyes before talking. "Strange how you don't seem all that concerned with the fact that Naruto is dead, more annoyed at this, like an inconvenience, as if his death threw a wrench in that scheme you and Minato had concocted." Tsunade's words were enough to shock and shake Hiruzen and Jiraiya. "Don't look so surprised, sensei. I'm not that stupid as to not figure out a few things, and Minato and Kushina weren't as hidden as they like to believe in the capital. I am a Senju, and my clan has made many friends at Daimyo's court. Since when did you know about them?" Hiruzen asked her. "Since the moment they arrived, and when I heard about the kids and then the Kyuubi Jinchuriki in here, I put the two and two together, and that is why I had refused to come back to the village when you first asked me," Tsunade stated to him with anger. The only reason I came here was because of Naruto, not because of you or this perverted idiot. I came here because I couldn't stand seeing him manipulated and used by you anymore, not after he had put his life on the line to save me. I had hoped to help him, at least fix all that damn damage you have done to him, but now. Now he is dead, because of another one of your fuck-ups, and I'm done here. What do you mean by that? Hiruzen asked Tsunade, before she threw at him her old and battered headband that she had kept as a reminder of her service to the Leaf. Your headband? Tsunade, you can't mean. I mean it, and this time, there is no way I'll be coming back here, not after you've confirmed my belief that nothing good will come for me from this village. All this village does is take away those that are precious to me, first with my father and your teacher, then Nawaki, uncle, Dan, the whole of Senju clan, then mother. And now Naruto. Tsunade's memories rushed back to her and she fought off the tears before turning away from Hiruzen and walking away from him. Consider this my complete resignation, old man. Don't worry, I won't spill the beans on that plan of yours. But do know this, that if you or any of your cronies come after me, I'll send them back to you in pieces, is that clear? Tsunade turned back to look at him for a second before Hiruzen nodded to her and allowed her to leave. Ugh. Are you really going to let her go just like that? Jiraiya asked him as he picked himself up. There's nothing that we can do to stop her, and from what we've seen, Tsunade not only has recovered her fighting spirit but grew even stronger than she was before. There is literally no one in the village who can take her down, and even if I send an Anbu squad after her, they won't be able to do a thing to her. Hiruzen sighed as he understood that things were getting even worse for him and Konoha. Better to let her just leave in peace and simply keep an eye out for her. I have known Tsunade her whole life, and while she is worse of a gambler than her father Lord First, she is not someone to talk about things like these, especially if it would hurt the village in the process. She may hate it, but at the end of the day, she won't do anything to hurt it. If you say so, sensei. Jiraiya said with a painted sign before the two returned to their earlier discussion. Later that night. Konoha's morgue. Konoha's morgue was quiet that night, and although there were no windows in this particular section, even from here one could hear the celebrations that were erupting throughout the village. For the misguided and ignorant villagers, this was the day of the celebration, for the demon who had plagued their lives was gone, killed by the hands of the Uchiha Sasuke. In the wave of jubilation and intoxicating elation, the people have completely forgotten the fact that said Uchiha had defected from the village and became a traitor. The council and elders, along with Hiruzen, reasoned that Orochimaru is controlling Sasuke, hence he is simply listed as a prisoner instead of a traitor and isn't placed in the wanted lists. Such hypocrisy was nothing new for the village or its leaders, and the two visitors who walked almost unopposed into the room where the dead body of Naruto Uzumaki was laying could only scoff at the way this village treated the boy. The man especially felt indignation at the way these arrogant bastards acted towards the blonde boy with the attitude and actions that made them into true monsters. Even in the days of the Sengoku period, there were certain lines that one shouldn't cross, and this village and its people, they've crossed many of them with Naruto. With a scowl present on his face, he spoke up more to himself than to his companion. These people. This is exactly what I told Hashirama would happen if he went along with his ideas and listened to his brother. The people of this village have no will of fire, for they do not see the need for it, since in their mind the will of fire is what makes them so powerful, a belief in their superiority. The man spoke with an irate tone before casting his gaze down upon Naruto's still body. I hope you are watching this, Hashirama. And if you do, take a good look at his boy and see what this village has degraded into. Your dream has rotten away and became a hollow husk thanks to Tobirama and his cronies. It almost makes me want to end this whole thing right now while they are addled and weak just to finally put an end to this travesty. We are not here so that you may vent your rage, Madara. A regal woman with unnatural beauty, dressed in white and with flowing long gold and silver hair and fiery golden eyes, spoke to Madara Uchiha, revived and restored to his prime by her will, forcing him to look at her. Remember why we are here. Oh, I do remember, but I can't help but wonder, for what reason are we not taking our vengeance? Of all the people, you especially have more than enough reasons to wish for the devastation of this village after it had abandoned and betrayed the Uzumaki clan, your direct descendants. Madara stated to her, with the woman calmly looking at him before he motioned to look at Naruto. Take a look at this child and see just how much Konoha and its people actually value our bloodlines. They did not even bother to sew up his wounds and fix injuries, they did not even bother to clean his body or prepare a burial. They've simply extracted all that could be taken from him and now they either will throw to the dogs or burn him like trash. And towards these people you want me to be tolerant, Amaterasu? I said nothing of tolerance, only that you do not forget about our purpose here, and starting a war here right now would only cause unneeded distraction and commotion. Amaterasu stated to him as she gracefully walked past him and looked with sad eyes at the dead body of Naruto. Of all of my children, grandchildren and descendants, very few possessed his kind of potential and such pure heart. He could have shaped the world in ways that not even my mother Hagoromo could dream of, and instead. This world, this travesty that Hagoromo allowed to happen, destroyed him, as it did my children, simply for defying it. And this is the clear indication that Hashirama had failed with his vision, the moment he allowed his misplaced idealism blind him to simple facts of human nature. Madara huffed as he thought about it, before he sighed. But then again, it was once a dream that we both had shared, at least until he allowed Tobirama to take Suzuka from me, and forgave him for it. And if only he had done just that, but he also took our son and deprived him of all that made him Uchiha and Uzumaki, making him into a perfect heir of his will of fire. Madara practically spit it out of him. Will you abide by the conditions of our deal, Shadow of the Uchiha? Amaterasu asked him, with Madara nodding to her. For all my faults, I am a man of my word, and when I give it, I keep it no matter what. Of course I shall train him and teach him all I have learned. Uchiha, Uzumaki, Senju and all other jutsu and techniques, I'll give it all to him. Madara assured her, before casting a look at Naruto, before a small smile came upon his face. Even though his mind and body were damaged by this village, he still showed great promise and power in face of adversity. Once I am through with him, he shall be someone truly worthy to dance with me on equal terms. Let us hope that shall be the case. Now, let us be on our way. Amaterasu told him, as she created a portal into another dimension, while Madara created a wood clone and had it transform into an exact copy of Naruto that was here and take its place, while Madara picked up Naruto's body. Will this copy not be found out? It shall be sufficient, especially since none of them will have any reason now to check if it is him or not. Madara assured Amaterasu, with her nodding to him and the two departing this realm and leaving Konoha. A different dimension. Later. Groaning and wincing from his body aching and being stiff all over, Naruto groggily opened up his eyes and looked up, seeing a wooden ceiling of the house that was clearly not his. Moving his head a little bit, Naruto managed to find out that he was not in his own house, but in a room that was far better than the one he owned. In fact, it reminded him of those houses where clans live and where was never allowed to step into, or at least it is what Naruto had thought was where people had lived. Confused by the change of surroundings, he managed to lift up his body and sat on the bed, looking around and finding that he really indeed was somewhere he never have been. It took him a few seconds to realize that he was actually alive after he sat up and looked around, and once the realization hit him, he looked at his body, examining it. Much to his shock and surprise, he found out that there were no scars or injuries left on him, in fact he was feeling even better than before. Even more so, it felt like he could breathe and think far better than before, like something was stopping him, or rather, slowing him down. Getting acclimated to his new state, Naruto noticed fresh clothes neatly put near him, consisting of a black shirt, underwear, pants and shoes. Once he finished putting these on, Naruto carefully left the room, finding himself in the hallway of what appeared to be a mansion. After wandering around for a few minutes, he found an opening outside and went into it, and once he was outside, he saw beautiful rolling plains, with flowers and grass for miles he could see, as well as fields of rice and more, but the sky as clear and beautiful as it could get. Naruto was so transfixed on his surroundings that he didn't notice someone who had been expecting him for quite some time now. So, you have awakened. Madara, who sat on the grass with closed eyes, spoke up, startling Naruto a little, before he opened his eyes and got up to look at him. I expected you to wake up a bit later, but it seems you are made of tougher stuff than I thought. Not to be rude, but who are you, and where am I? The last thing I remember, I was. Naruto spoke up, before trailing off and looking around. Am I actually dead? Naruto asked, once his mind caught up with his mouth, with Madara chuckling to him. You were dead, yes, but now. Now you are back to living, thanks to me and your ancestors. As for your other questions, this is not heaven nor hell, so you may breathe easy, but in a different dimension. You may think of it as a completely different, separate world from the one you came from, created by the one who had revived you. Madara explained to Naruto, who listened to him with a clear look of shock. And as for who I am Madara Uchiha, once a leader of Uchiha clan, and one of the founders of Konohagakure, and the man who named it. But to you, Naruto, I am your grandfather. Naruto's eyes widened as he backed away from the man for a second. Am my grandfather? But you don't look anything like me, and I'm Uzumaki, not an Uchiha. Even more so, third Hokage always said that I was an orphan and that my parents had died when I was born because of the Kyuubi. Naruto exclaimed in shock. This doesn't make any sense. Perhaps for now it does not, but soon enough, you will understand everything, but for now, let's see what the person who brought you back has to say. Madara told him, as he and Naruto turned to the portal which opened up, with Amaterasu stepping out of it and looking at Naruto with a small smile, before she spoke up. Hello Naruto. I apologize for where you are and the confusion, and I hope you are doing better than you were. Amaterasu spoke with a kind and warm tone, one that Naruto was definitely not used to. Please, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Amaterasu, and this is my realm, known as Takamegahara. Madara and I had brought you, or rather your body here, to restore it and bring you back to life after you were slain by that boy, Sasuke, I believe is his name. Naruto looked at her with surprise when she spoke like that. That's so, I really was dead then. Naruto said with a realization in his voice before he looked at Amaterasu. But how did you manage to bring me back to life? And for that matter, why? Am I like one of those zombies Hokage, like the ones Orochimaru used against Lord Third? At that moment Madara scoffed again. No, you are not one of those reanimations that Third's fallen disciple had managed to summon, and even those were at best only pale imitations of their real selves. Had they been real, neither Konoha nor possibly the Land of Fire would be left standing. Hashirama alone would have been more than enough to destroy that village without even breaking a sweat. Madara stated to Naruto. So no, you are not one of those pale imitations of living beings. Instead, you are brought back via the power of a far more powerful ninjutsu, known as Rin Rebirth. And as I am sure you have noticed, you were brought back without all those impediments that were forced upon your body and mind. You mean like I can think better and feel like I'm more myself? Naruto asked, with Madara nodding to him. Yeah, I've noticed that it's like I'm finally sober or something like that and I can think better, but what the hell had happened to make me like I was? We will get to that eventually, for now it is time you learned who you really are, Naruto. Madara told him, with Amaterasu speaking up again. I am sure Madara had already told you that he is your grandfather, and he is correct, for he is your paternal grandfather. You hold in yourself the blood of Uchiha, Senju and Uzumaki, Naruto, with your paternal grandmother being from the Senju clan, while your mother is from the Uzumaki clan. Amaterasu spoke to him, with Naruto looking at her with shock. And as for me and how I brought you back, I am a being that is not human in nature, though once I was close to those. I am what you could call a kami, or a being that had achieved divinity, though before that, I was a child born from a union of a celestial princess and a human lord thousands of years before your birth. I shall explain more later, but the most important thing for you to know is that you, Naruto, are one of my last direct and true descendants, one of the last of the Uzumaki. You're my ancestor. But you would have to be really old, I mean older than Madara here. Naruto exclaimed in shock, with Amaterasu nodding to him. Like I said, I was born in the days before shinobi and before humanity had chakra. I am a being that is immortal and can live for an infinite number of years, but before I had ascended, I had a family and had many children. Those children would be the foundation of what would come to be known as Uzumaki clan. Amaterasu told him, before a look of sadness crossed her face. For millennia, my children and descendants lived in peace and prosperity, away from the wars and destruction that were brought by shinobi, but now my family is nothing but a dead memory, with what remains having forgotten their roots or actively shunned them in favor of their own ambitions and wishes. So if you are a kami and have all this power, does that mean that you actually know who my parents were? Naruto asked them, with Madara and Amaterasu exchanging looks, before Madara spoke up. Yes, we do know who Naruto is. However, as much as you wish to know about them, I must warn you that this truth will hurt far more than you think and you may wish you had never heard it. Madara told him, with Naruto turning to him. Now, do you really wish to know about them and the truth about yourself, what heroes in Sarutobi and others have hidden away from you? Yeah, I want to know the truth. Naruto said with clear determination. Very well then. Madara simply stated, and then he and Amaterasu began to tell the truth to Naruto. Instead of raging and denying everything, Naruto simply stood and listened to them as he learned of the fact that his life had been nothing more than a carefully orchestrated diversion and a ploy to distract the enemies of Konoha away from his parents and siblings, the real holders of Kyuubi's power. He heard how he was a necessary sacrifice for the prosperity of Konoha, as Madara had called it, left by his parents and overseen by the third Hokage. His entire purpose was to play the role of a Jinchuriki, be a scarecrow for the other villages, while his siblings were being trained and raised to be what his parents believed to be chosen champions of the world. Apparently, they were following a prophecy that entailed the coming of a great hero, a child of destiny, that would change the world of shinobi, and both Minato and Kushina, as well as others who knew of it, believed that it was one of their children, but not Naruto. Out of fear for the man who had unleashed the Nine Tails before and the many enemies that fourth had made, it was decided that they would go into hiding in the Fire Capital, while training and teaching the children they took with them. And as for Naruto, his fate was sealed and he was left as a pawn in their grand game, one that had to suffer from misguided hatred and prejudice of the people. Naruto listened for hours without saying a word, daring not to interrupt either of them, sitting unmoving and still, seemingly lost in thought and act. It was only after they had stopped talking did Naruto finally decide to speak up. So my parents were alive, and they knew about what was happening to me all this time. Naruto stated, not asked, with Madara nodding to him. And fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, is actually your son, but then why doesn't he look like you and what about his Sharingan? Minato took after the looks of my wife Suzuka Senju, who was a cousin of both Hashirama and Mito, through her Senju father and Uzumaki mother, having possessed golden hair akin to what Amaterasu has. Not long after our son was born, several members of the Senju clan, with the support of my other enemies, attempted to kill me. They had failed, but as a result, my wife Suzuka. She died protecting me from a hidden attack, while our son was secretly taken from me, making it look like he too was killed. Madara said with a barely contained anger in him. It would be long after my defeat at the hands of Hashirama that I would learn that in reality it was Tobirama who had orchestrated the entire thing, and that he took Minato. After my first death, Tobirama had studied the Sharingan and learned how to block it permanently, and so he eliminated Minato's ability to possess Sharingan, but wasn't able to get rid of his mother's genes and my other genes, hence his great prowess in all things related to ninjutsu in battle. Then why isn't he known as Senju? Naruto asked. Because in Tobirama's eyes, Minato didn't deserve to be part of his clan, hence he simply placed him into an orphanage as another one of many orphans. Madara answered Naruto. As much as I may despise and hate Tobirama for what he had done, at this point I cannot bring myself to call Minato my son, not after he had trampled over all that Suzuka had cared and valued. And what about me then? If he can't have Sharingan, does that mean I can't too? Naruto asked them. No Naruto. When I reincarnated you, I had removed all that had stopped you from possessing it. As a matter of fact, you should have all the genetic prowess of Senju, Uzumaki and Uchiha at the same time. Amaterasu stated to him. However, there is even more that you possess in you, for I used both my chakra to restore you, but also my blood to strengthen you even further, since your body was drained of both completely. In the way that all of it fused with you, it inadvertently had made you. It has made you my child in blood. Amaterasu stated to Naruto, who looked at her with surprise. So? Does that mean that I have no blood of those two in me? Naruto asked her, with Amaterasu nodding to him. After all I had heard just now. All I have to say is good riddance. You are taking this way better than I had anticipated. Madara admitted. After all that had happened to me, what would be the point of trying to cry and rage about it all? I've long since learned that it never leads anywhere, at least it was the case before my mind was altered. Naruto told him with maturity that once was part of him. I died and was freed from all of the bonds to Konoha and them, and after all I heard now. I've got no doubts that it is for the best. Still, I don't get it, why did you bring me back from the dead? Because of me, Naruto, or rather because of someone who had been using me and the shinobi since their creation. Madara stated to him. After my defeat at the hands of Hashirama, I had managed to cheat death and hide away, making plans to change the world and enact a plan that would finally bring peace to it. Unfortunately, it was only after my death that I had learned that all of my ambitions and plans were meant for an ancient entity to come back to life again, and my dream was only an illusion. You see Naruto, the world as you know it came to be largely thanks to my brother Hagoromo, who is remembered as the Sage of Six Paths, and whose sons had begun the ninjutsu and paved the way for shinobi and endless wars. But before all that, he and my other brother, Homura, had fought and sealed away our mother, Kagaya, a celestial being that can be considered a progenitor of all chakra in this world. Amaterasu explained to Naruto. However, even from her sealed cage that is the moon, she still somehow directs events to bring her back. The pieces of her power, the Biju, are the key for it, and now there are people who are actively looking for them, intending to collect all of them, formed thanks to Madara and his pawns. The Akatsuki? Naruto asked them, with both nodding to him. Yes, they were to be the pawns in my plan to bring me the tailed beasts, and after my death my subordinate Obito, who assumed my name and identity, carried on with the plan, though I now suspect he has decided to bring about his own vision. In reality, he doesn't even know the fact that all he is being used by Kagaya to bring herself back. Madara stated to him, before taking a sigh. It was only much later that I learned all this from Amaterasu, along with the truth about shinobi, myself and everything that had been happening. Learning that all my life had been merely a play in someone's scheme and a continuation of ages-old war between siblings. I've decided to help and finally break that circle, and with your help I shall accomplish it. And how do I fit in all of this? Naruto asked them. I am able to track down the spirits of my brother's sons, Indra and Asura, and I found out that you, Naruto, was the next reincarnation of Asura, while your friend Sasuke is Indra's reincarnation, hence why you were so drawn to fighting one another. Thankfully, after your death, your spirit was freed from Asura's, and you were reborn without him, so you are now fully free. Amaterasu told him with a small smile. However, the Akatsuki and their puppet masters are still at large, and they are trying to bring my mother back to life, and if they succeed, it would spell disaster for the world. Had I been able, I would have destroyed them myself, but I cannot for I am charged with protecting our world from others like her, who are eyeing up our world as a prize. Because of that, I have decided that I need someone who can fill the role of the protector of our world and also someone who could restore our clan. Hence, I chose you, Naruto. Me? You mean you want me to stop the Akatsuki and whoever is behind them? Naruto asked them, with Amaterasu nodding to him. But I'm just a 13-year-old genin who only knows a few jutsu and without the fox, I don't have anything all that special in me, plus I've not ever been trained by anyone. Well, that is nothing that we can't remedy, can we? Madara smirked a little at Naruto. Amaterasu has revived me with the express purpose to train and prepare you for what is going to come next, and I intend to do just that. You possess in you the talents and potential of the 3 strongest shinobi bloodlines, and your personal potential alone is enough to possibly make you someone on the same level as your former father Minato, if not someone more powerful. Under my tutelage and training, Naruto, you shall be a shinobi that even Hashirama would not be able to defeat. Judging by the tone of his voice, Naruto figured that Madara was already itching to get started. Well, I'm all up for the training, especially under one like you, but that could take years, and I doubt that Akatsuki would be sitting idly by. Naruto remarked. That is not something you need to concern yourself with. You see, in this realm of my creation, I control everything, even laws of existence and reality, like time. Right now, I've changed the time flow here in such a way so that one day in our world would equal a year here. Amaterasu stated to him, with Naruto looking at her with surprise. You will have more than enough time to learn everything there is to learn from Madara and me, and by the time you are done, you shall leave this realm not an untrained genin, but the strongest shinobi in hundreds of years, possessing the strongest bloodlines in history all at the same time. And all you want me to do is stop the Akatsuki from reviving Kagaya? Naruto asked, with Amaterasu nodding to him. Yes, that is all I ask. After your training is complete, your life is yours and yours alone to choose what you may wish to do, even if it means you decide to not do what I ask. Amaterasu told him, surprising Naruto. It is not my wish to make you obey my will or do my bidding akin to a slave. My only wish is to give you means to make your own path in life, Naruto, and to ensure that you will be able to make your life into whatever you wish it to be. You really mean that? That you will train me and that you won't make into your pawn or something like that? Naruto asked, almost unsure of it, with both nodding to him. Yes, Naruto, I swear upon my wife's memory that I shall train you to the best of my abilities. Madara assured him. So do I swear, Naruto, that as your ancestor and now mother, I shall help you make your own way in life, yet not be someone who forces you to walk the path you do not desire. Amaterasu stated to him, with Naruto having tears in his eyes and the rippling effect coming upon him, finally unlocking the first stage of Sharingan. And from then on, Naruto Uzumaki was finally reborn anew and began his new life with his mother and grandfather, training and growing as the son of the sun and heir of shadow. 8 days later in the shinobi world. Land of water. May Terumi grit her teeth as she fended off another assault from the loyalist Kurigakure forces, 4th or 5th this day, and this was only past midday. She, along with her forces, consisting of rebel shinobi, ronins, mercenary and local samurai and militia who had sided with her, were on the brink of collapse and exhaustion. She reflected on the status of her combined forces and couldn't help but sigh at the fact that they had a very bad couple of months. Just half a year ago their combined forces would have been enough to defeat Yagura and the many warlords that now plagued the land of water, but the problems arose rather quickly in her forces, as infighting between nobles, samurai and shinobi, made them vulnerable and indecisive. As a result, Yagura and his forces were able to subjugate a majority of the petty warlords and local governors, forging an army that was a far greater threat than had they been disunited. Not for the first time May cursed at the weakness of Water Daimyo and his court, who had allowed their country to slip into chaos and war again, and who at this point were nothing more but figureheads and puppets in hands of Yagura. It wasn't long after Yagura had taken full control of those forces that he started dealing May a defeat after defeat, leading to mounting casualties and even defections by the nobles and samurai. Those who left her were more eager to profit from this chaos, rather than put an end to it, and yet those that stayed were among the most hardened and battle-ready warriors of Land of Water, and so instead of wasting their lives, May and her co-commanders decided to retreat and make their stand on the grounds of their choosing. Initially, the retreat went as planned, and even though they had many wounded and injured, as well as fugitives and refugees, they were able to relocate to the northwestern island of Land of Water without a problem. It was here that the problems arose, for it turned out that Yagura was informed of their destination, had made a beeline here with his veteran troops, while also using Land of Water's fleet and samurai to block any potential escape route. May's forces were not ready for the battle, with most being tired and exhausted by the long march, as well as having many injured and ill, not to mention refugees. As much as she and others would have liked to have found a way to get out of there, they were surrounded, and the only option left was to fight, and so they gave battle to Yagura's forces, which initially went in their favor. But the moment Yagura unleashed his tailed beast and went on a rampage, the tide turned and her forces were forced to pull back and go on the defensive near the walls of the city of Kamakura, which housed all of the injured and the refugees. Beset on all fronts and fighting to their last, Mei fought the hardest in her entire life, but a long day of exhaustive combat took a toll on her, and her senses dulled a little, and she missed one of Kiri's jonins making his way to her, with intent to kill her. Before he was able to connect his kunai with her throat, a swift slash by a blade ended his life, and Mei looked at the person who had saved her, finding a tall woman with long dark purple hair and purple eyes of unmatched beauty, dressed in a dark suit of armor, with her long tachi brandished out. "Thanks Raikou. I owe you one." Mei thanked Raikou Minamoto, leader of the samurai forces and one of the greatest warriors in the land of water. "Think nothing of it, Mei. I simply returned the favor from the last time." Raikou responded before she moved and slashed two more attacking shinobi. Yugura is either getting hasty or simply stopped caring about his men. He is throwing them at us without any thought or consideration. He has not been a man who cared for such things for a long time now. Mei responded as she casted water jutsu and blasted away a group of attacking loyalists. He seems to have simply stopped caring for the casualties and wants this war over as soon as possible. Mei said before she kicked another jonin away from her before she and Raikou prepared for another assault yet instead saw how loyalist forces began to pull back. They are pulling back. Why would they do that when they have the advantage in numbers and the initiative? Raikou asked aloud before she focused her vision on the far-off ridge and saw the reason for why they pulled back. "Mei, look," she said with a hollow voice and her face paled, with Mei soon also gaining a pale complexion. "Yugura. He is insane. Is he really going to use a Bijudama on us?" Mei asked aloud as she saw the fourth Mizukage in the form of the three tails gathering chakra around his mouth for an attack. "He'll not only destroy us, but also level this entire area and turn Kamakura to ashes. We have to evacuate everyone." Raikou spoke, snapping out of her shock and fear, but it was too late as Yugura launched his concentrated ball of chakra at them. The ball of volatile chakra traveled fast, leaving a trail of flattened earth underneath it and squashed people who were unfortunate enough to be on its flight path. The whole battlefield went silent and still, and most looked at the incoming attack, yet Raikou and Mei felt a vibration of the air coming from above them and looked up, seeing something that they least expected. Yet before either of them could say a thing, the tailed beast bomb connected and exploded. The power of the blast knocked out the air and the sound, creating a pillar and wall of flame, dust and smoke that turned the entire glassy plain into a wasteland and engulfed the city and its products. This was already seen as a victory in the eyes of the loyalists, yet when the dust had settled and smoke cleared, Yugura and his forces were greeted with a sight they did not expect to see. A massive moving ethereal wall of fiery red chakra separated the rebel forces in Kamakura from the blast, protecting them all from the blast. And near Mei and Raikou stood the caster of this mighty shield, and they looked in shock and awe at this man. He stood at 181 centimeters, possessing a mane of gold and silver with slight spikiness, which was made into a tail behind him and reached the middle of his back, with bangs framing his fine and attractive face and fiery golden eyes, which had a swirling ripple tone in them, with 6 tomo in each of them. He stood dressed in a crimson samurai-like armor, with a white coat above, complemented with black shirt and pants, along with shoes, with the symbol of Uzumaki on the back of his coat, with 6 tomo dotting it along the line of a spiral from center to the edge. On his left hip rested a sheathed long straight sword with a white sheath and black and white handle, from which seemed to come a glow. The man turned his gaze towards the 2 leaders of the rebels and spoke up in a carefree tone. "Are you okay?" He spoke to them as the 2 stood transfixed and trying to figure out what was going on, as well as mentally admiring the looks of this man. "Sorry if I had startled you, but it looked like you people needed some serious help, so I've decided to lend a helping hand." What? "Ah, why yes, we are fine, thanks to you." Mei, with a healthy blush on her cheeks, collected herself and spoke up. "Why yes, your help is most welcome, though I fear we do not know who you are and why you landed us your help." Raikou too had collected herself and spoke up, with the man smiling to them and answering. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and I've decided to help you because you really looked like you needed it and so I landed you a helping hand." Naruto told them earnestly as he turned around and looked at the incoming forces of Yugura. "Well, looks like that mad Mizukage of yours isn't too happy with you still being alive. If you do not mind, please order your forces to pull back into the city while I clean the house, so to speak." Naruto prepared for the battle, with both women looking at him with shock. "Are you serious? There are over 3,000 shinobi with at least 6,000 samurai over there, you can't possibly beat them." Raikou stated, with Naruto simply smirking a little, with Mei having a feeling that he was fully serious. "Trust me, I don't intend to let them win today. Now, please move your forces out of the battlefield. They are tired and exhausted, with many injured and traumatized, so you would do better to take care of them instead of engaging your enemies right now." Naruto told her as he dispelled the chakra wall and began to walk towards the incoming enemy wave while his eyes returned to normal. "Raikou, let's not argue with him on this," Mei told her, gaining her attention. This man, this Naruto. I had a look at his eyes and this wall of chakra that saved us. They looked far too much like Sharingan, only distinct, unique in their own way. You mean he could be an Uchiha? But why then introduce himself as an Uzumaki and dress up like that? Raikou asked aloud as she saw Naruto start to speed up towards the incoming wave of enemies before creating 20 shadow clones and spreading them into the line. Is he really going to? In the next second, the 21 Naruto Uzumaki clashed into 1,000 of Kurigakure veteran shinobi. And they went through them like a hot knife through air, dispatching the incoming enemies with the same ease as a man picking up a fallen leaf off the ground. The clones and the original engaged the enemies without even stopping their run, swatting them away with kicks and fists, not needing more than 2 to deal with them before they reached the center of the formation, and then they stopped. Surrounded and outnumbered, the newcomer and his clones then went to town on the enemies. Mei and Raikou ordered a general retreat of their forces while they observed as the literal one-man army was making Kurigakure's finest look like hapless lambs in front of the storm as Naruto was crushing the enemies with his mere taijutsu skills. They looked with shock and awe at the way this man fought, moving like he was in 3 places at the same time and not fighting, but beating the enemies with such ease that made them sorry for those who dared to stand in his way. And at the same time, there was not just simple power and might in his attacks, but also grace and even elegance in the way he moved, akin to a dancer who partook in a dance of death and enjoyed it. The 2 women couldn't help but feel a blush coming upon their cheeks upon gazing at this man, and not so pure thoughts began to creep into their mind. Soon enough, Naruto and his clones were practically through with their enemies, and the moment he was about to finish off most of them, he sensed how another Bijudama was launched at him. Forgetting completely about his enemies, Naruto reached for his weapon and then unsheathed it, unleashing a powerful wave of energy that he sent towards the incoming ball of chakra. The 2 attacks met in the air, and in the end, Naruto's proved to be more powerful and destroyed the Bijudama, splitting it into 2 and forcing it to explode. Once the dust had settled, Naruto stood outside the field with most of the enemies either dead, injured or running away from him, while he looked up at the giant turtle-like monster who looked down upon him, with both of them now on the same ridge. Are you so eager to dance with me that you are prepared to destroy your own men just for that? Naruto asked him with complete calmness as he gazed with his eyes at him. Their lives are nothing but a resource I have to use as I see fit. A resource that has failed to deliver on what I had wanted and couldn't even destroy those traitors, along with you. Yugura spoke with the voice of his tenant, with Naruto simply looking at them with a neutral expression. I don't know who you are, but you have made a grave mistake coming here and saving them. Nobody who has seen this form has ever survived, and I'll make sure that you won't be an exception. I'm afraid you won't get a chance to correct that mistake, nor realize that all this time you were nothing more but a pawn in the hands of a misguided fool. Naruto simply stated to him as his own Sharingan eyes came to life and then changed to their Manjikyu Sharingan pattern. You say that none who gazed upon your tailed beast form had ever survived. Well, then I shall answer with one form that is exactly the same way. And with this, fiery red chakra exploded from his body and immediately began to take shape and form. Right before the eyes of the rebels and loyalists on top of the ridge, towering over the battlefield and surrounding area, is a giant made out of fiery red chakra, a warrior with a horned Kijin head and dressed in ancient armor and clothes. But beads in the form of Magatama around his neck, with a small shield on his left hand and a large straight blade in his right hand, and from inside of its forehead, Naruto looked down upon the 3-tailed beast. Mei and Raikou had thought that at this point, nothing could effectively surprise or scare them, but now they understood just how wrong they were. My grandfather and teacher would berate me for using this against such a lowly creature like you, but after all your crimes and atrocities, all you deserve is utter despair and merciless death. Naruto told him as his Susanoo moved his arms with the blade above his head. This Susanoo is the ultimate expression of destruction and death, and it has come for you, fourth Mizukage. And with this said, Susanoo swung the blade down upon the 3-tailed beast. The 3-tailed beast though is not considered to be the strongest of the tailed beasts, but it is considered to be one of the most well defended and protected thanks to its shell, which is said to be able to withstand even lava. However, Naruto's Susanoo and its sword were nothing to scoff at either, and it could split the earth and heaven, and nothing could stand before its might, and 3-tailed beast wasn't able to withstand its might. His hard shell split upon the contact of the blade, and then all of his form was divided, and then the ridge and the ground beyond it, creating a ditch that stretched for miles until it reached the ocean, and then began to fill it with the water. The ridge was split into 2, and in the middle of the divide was the form of Yugura and 3-tailed beast, dissipating and disappearing like a mist after the morning wind. Once the dust was settled and the outcome was revealed to the world, the loyalist forces in a mere instant found themselves on the losing side and without their leader, while the rebels, just mere minutes beforehand were on the brink of defeat, found themselves victorious in the war they considered all but lost. And it was delivered to them by a man, or perhaps even a kami, that in one single strike ended the terror and tyranny of Yugura, and now he had quite a few things to explain to those who wanted to know. Hours later. Kamakura Castle. After the battle was over and the now deceased Yugura's forces surrendered to Mei and Raikou right after they understood that they stood no chance against Naruto and his just impossible power. It took them hours just to sort out this entire mess, and even now, they were not yet fully done with the process, only through with the major things, like securing the commanders and nobles, as well as distribution of the prisoners and such things. The rest Mei and Raikou decided to leave to their deputies and other commanders while they headed to Kamakura Castle in the center of the city, which now became the temporary hospital and house of refugees and wounded, as well as the place where Naruto headed right after the battle. The two women expected to be celebrating or resting, but instead of doing anything of that sort, he went on ahead to treat the wounded with medical ninjutsu, with his clones doing the same thing, having spread around the hospital. When Mei and Raikou saw the massive hospital and many clones of Naruto and himself at work healing and restoring the injured and battered people to full health, they once again were amazed at him. Without asking permission or being told, he just did what people needed and did not ask for a single thing, instead earnestly working and healing their people. They watched in shock as the nearly dead shinobi and samurai alike were brought back to life by Naruto and his incredible medical prowess. Both women could not help themselves but grow even more in admiration with Naruto, as well as admit that he is as good of a healer, if not better than Tsunade Senju is. They had wanted to discuss certain things, including him, but when they saw that he was fully focused and engrossed in his work, they decided to wait until he was available and left him a message. Once he was finished with the work and received the message from Mei and Raikou, Naruto headed straight to them, finding them in what used to be Lord's private study, joined to his private quarters. There he found the two ladies having changed out of their battle garments into more comfortable and form-fitting garments, with Mei donning her usual blue dress, while Raikou decided on a purple kimono, with both having cleaned themselves after battle. Once all of them were settled, Naruto conversed with the ladies, revealing to them much about himself, from him being a grandson of Madara Uchiha to the circumstances of his death and rebirth. Some may question him for revealing such sensitive things to complete strangers, and while it was fully reasonable for Naruto to withhold or lie about it, his entire first life was a lie and charade, and he had grown an aversion to lies. If he could tell the truth, he would do so, and from what he saw from Mei and Raikou, as well what his instinct and senses were telling him, he could trust them, and so he did. The two women listened and only asked him questions from time to time in order to clarify a few things, but other than that, they did not interrupt him in any manner. After hours of talking and discussions, Naruto was finally finished with his tale, and after taking a sigh and leaning back on the sofa, he spoke up. That covers it up. After my training was complete and I had mastered all I had to learn from grandfather, Amaterasu opened up a portal to this world and allowed me to leave. Naruto told them. Though as it turned out, she was a little off with her directions, and so I ended up right near your battle, and so I decided to intervene, knowing what was going on. You could have easily slipped away or stayed out of it, yet instead you got involved like that, risking your anonymity, just because we were in danger of death. Mei asked him, still finding it a little hard to believe in this, with Naruto nodding to her. Yes, because that is how I am. Can't sit away from something that is wrong without fixing it. Naruto admitted to Mei. All of this, and to think that Goddess Amaterasu is actually your mother, and even before all that. Raikou sat as she processed all of that in her head, before collecting herself and looking up to him. Naruto, if you do not mind telling us, what are your plans now that you are back in our world? Do you intend to take revenge upon Konoha and your parents for what had been done to you, as well as to your clans and family? In all honesty, I don't really know what I want to do. Aside from dealing with the Akatsuki, I've not really made any other plans, and from what I've heard from Madara and Amaterasu, tracking them down right now would be a waste of time, since most of them if not all will be underground and too spread out to deal in one stroke. And given the fact that the Three Tails is dead and will take at least 3 years to reform, I guess that means I'm either going to have to walk around and look for them or find something else to do. Naruto said, as he thought about it, not missing a shared look between Mei and Raikou. And as for Konoha and my parents, I did think about it, but after years spent in Takamagahara and talks with my mother, I came to a conclusion that it's not really worth the effort and time, plus it would only make things worse for other people. But that doesn't mean that you have forgiven them for all that they had done to you, am I correct? Raikou asked him. Naturally, while I'm not all that interested in destroying that place and everyone within its borders, I'm not going to be forgiving them for all that had been done to me. I just don't want to get too engrossed in petty revenge and vengeance. Naruto answered. Now then, since I have answered your question, could you please answer one of my own? Am I to assume that you have come up with certain plans for me, and if so, would you care to share them with me? You are quite a perceptive man, aren't you? Mei asked him with a small flirtation smile. With an appearance like yours and the way you saved us, while also ending our war, can you blame a woman for getting a few naughty ideas? She asked him while showing just a little bit of her hip to him, with Naruto not falling for this. Ideas are all well and good, but the moment someone decides to make those ideas into plans that involve me without my consent is when I get not so friendly. Naruto told them, with Mei understanding what he meant. I am sure you can understand my defensiveness, given my past. Of course, Naruto. Please allow us to assure you that Mei and I did not intend to do anything of the sort. Raikou assured him in a polite tone. We did wish to make you a proposition, if you wish to hear it. Well, you were earnest with me so far, I'm all ears. Naruto told them. Thanks to you and your actions today, we have finally been able to end this war, but while it is ended, there is still the matter of rebuilding and restoring our land, and the war hasn't been merciful to our country, not just Kurigakure. In short, we are currently the weakest land and shinobi village, with most of the provinces and areas of land of water in disarray and chaos, making us a perfect easy target for our enemies and other countries. Mei told him in a serious manner. Mei, Raikou and those who had supported us didn't fight this war just to see our country destroyed in another, and with the losses we've sustained and all but complete collapse of the government of Daimyo, we won't be able to win against any major nation or a coalition of those. It will take time and much effort to rebuild, and in the meantime, we need to show others that if push comes to shove, we can defend ourselves. In other words, you need some serious extra firepower to show to your enemies and make them think twice or thrice before invading, am I correct? Naruto understood Mei perfectly, with the two women nodding to him. While I am quite proficient in shinobi arts, after my first try at being a shinobi, I'm not all that eager to become someone's subordinate, even someone as beautiful as you two. Even our beauty will not compel you to submit. Are you one of those men who like to play hard to get, Naruto? Mei flirtatiously asked, with Naruto smirking a little. No, I am just a man who sticks to his principles no matter what and doesn't surrender in face of adversity or seduction. Naruto stated. And besides, something tells me that a man who so easily succumbs to such incentives is not all that worthy of the attention of one like you. I quite agree. Men like you are far more attractive to women like me and Raikou, stalwart and loyal in their beliefs and principles. Mei admitted with a smile to him. After what you did here, the whole world will know about you in mere days, if not already, and they will know about your power and strength you hold. What Raikou and I wish to propose to you is that you help us protect the land of water from our enemies, not as a shinobi, but as an autonomous protector of sorts, and equal to us in status. In exchange for your services, Raikou has agreed to cede you Kamakura, its surrounding lands, and offer you the pledge of all its people. Naruto was quite seriously surprised by this proposition, instantly turning his head to Raikou, who merely nodded to him. My family had been owners of this island and province for generations, however this war had seen the death of all my clan members, save for me, so I do effectively own this land. After your display of power and saving the people in the city, as well as what you did here today, many start to see you as someone sent to us as a savior by the heavens, and given your origin, there is some truth to it. Raikou told Naruto. I am prepared to give you Kamakura and its people and acknowledge you as their lord. But in order to ensure your new rule is legitimate, you will be required to take me as your wife. Raikou said with blush and small stutter, surprising Naruto even more. Raikou, I do not have any intentions to force you into any sort of arrangement like this, and I'm certainly not looking for an opportunity to take away your freedom and what belongs to you. Naruto immediately told her. Why yes, I understand that, and no, I am not forcing myself into anything I wouldn't consent to. I am already of the age where I should have been married off to a man, but I refuse to be sold off like a pig on a market, and I resolve to choose the man with whom I would spend my life with. Raikou said with a deeper blush, causing Naruto to blush as well at the implication. Oh of course, I do not mean to force myself upon you, or to force you to do anything a husband would be expected of. If you would prefer, the marriage would be purely a formality without any sort of responsibilities or duties, aside from ceremonial ones. But I am quite sure you can see it clear as day that our dear Raikou would not make such an offer if she didn't see you as more than just some political asset. Mei told Naruto with a bit of a flirtatious voice, with Raikou not denying it. She is just a bit shy to admit that she, like myself, are finding ourselves quite fascinated and enraptured with you, Naruto, and we wouldn't mind becoming more than simple acquaintances or friends. Naruto was positively stunned when he heard it, even more so when he realized that their desire is genuine. I will be honest with you and say that my first experience with romance was, well, it was not quite a good one. The girl I was crushing on saw me as an annoyance and often showed it in a quite violent manner, more often than not punching me just out of either annoyance or because I was too mouthful in her eyes. Naruto admitted, recalling his experience with Sakura. After all that had happened, I'm not too comfortable with such things and seeing both of you taking such an interest in me. Is this really okay with both of you? I wouldn't want to become a cause of discord between the two of you. Mei and Raikou exchanged looks and stood up before moving to his sofa and sitting either side, gently taking each of his hands into theirs and holding them. It is very sweet of you to ask this of Naruto, but you need not worry yourself with this. Raikou and I know each other quite well, and we've already established that sharing you wouldn't be such a big problem. Mei assured him as she leaned a little closer to him. While Raikou claims the spot of your wife, there is nothing wrong for a lord to have a concubine. In fact, it is quite expected of him in our society, and I can live with such a status, for I see you as the type to treat all your women equally. Like I said, if you wish, our marriage would be merely a formality, and you may take whoever you wish to bed, should you find them to your fancy. Raikou said with dignity, but she squeezed his hand a little stronger. However. I do wish for us to be more than mere formal partners, and for you to see me as a proper wife and lover. I am not opposed to sharing you with more women, but only if they truly care and love them, and they are not opposed to this kind of relationship. I don't know what to say. This is happening so fast and… Naruto was quite shocked with the situation, but Mei put a finger to his lip and spoke in a caring and warm tone. You don't need to say anything. We understand that all of this is sudden and surprising for you, and we are not demanding an answer right now, and should you refuse our offer, please know that that doesn't mean that we would be averted from you. Our affections to you are not related to our offer, Naruto. Mei assured him, calming him a little. If you wish for this, then we will take things slow, step by step, because we too want it, and while we do find you quite irresistible, we wouldn't be so cruel as to force you into something you are not comfortable with. Mei and I. We too do not have the best history with romance, so we would be exploring this along with you. I promise you that we won't treat you like that girl you told us about, even if you are going to annoy us, I would never lower myself to mistreat you in any form or manner. Raikou assured him as she looked into his eyes. So, if you wish. We shall be in your care. At that point, Naruto closed his eyes and thought about it all for a few minutes before opening it up and speaking up. Alright. I agree. Naruto said, pleasantly surprising both women. However, I have certain conditions in addition to those that you've set before. Very well, name them. Mei immediately said. First, I don't want to be a simple figurehead and do nothing if I am to be a lord and let Raikou do all the ruling. I want to be able to help you govern this realm, and I want you to take part in it, for it is your land and I am marrying you, so I wish to support my spouse no matter what. Raikou was surprised by this and the determination, making her blush even more and feel her heart pound even faster. I mean to do good for the people of Kamakura and Land of Water, so I will rely on you to teach me how to help them and you in governing. Of course, Naruto. I will do my utmost to help you in this. Raikou promised him with a smile. Second, I want you to always be honest with me, even if it means hurting me and saying hurtful things to me. I do not want to hurt you if we are going to be in a relationship, so if I am doing something wrong to you or hurt you, please, do not hesitate and just tell me about it. Naruto asked for them, with both Mei and Raikou surprised and touched by this request. And finally, I want you to not forget about yourselves and put yourselves before everything else. As your lover and consort, it is my responsibility to take care of you, and I shall do my utmost to accomplish it, but I do not want you to simply go along with all I do. If you do not like something, if you have something to tell me or something like that or like I said before, do not hesitate to tell. That is all I am asking of you. Mei and Raikou looked at him with surprised expressions before they softened their gaze and smiled at him. Those are quite severe conditions you put upon us, my lord. Mei said in a playful manner. It will be quite a challenge to comply with them, especially seeing what a selfless and comforting lover we now have, but we will try. Mei said as she leaned her head upon his shoulder, cuddling a little with him. I shall do so too, my husband. Raikou told him as she repeated the notion and gently laid upon Naruto's shoulder, with him allowing it to happen. For quite a while he and his new girlfriend simply sat like this in silence, enjoying a moment of closeness and intimacy that it brought to them, content and happy with what they had now, at the moment of the beginning of their relationship. And as for Naruto, he managed to gently wrap his arms around two women, bringing them closer and letting them rest and fall asleep on his shoulders while he pondered and thought about what to do next. Although his goals were clear about the Akatsuki and he will stop them, Amaterasu has made it clear that he was first going to think about himself, now that he had his second chance in life, and that Akatsuki weren't going to be his end goal. He wasn't quite sure what he wanted for himself out of this life, but right now he felt more content and happy than he ever did in Konoha, and at this moment, Naruto figured that this was where he belonged and where he shall stay. Chapter 2. 3 years after the end of the Mizu Civil War. Land of Water. Kamakura. Great Castle. The large council chambers were furnished with a certain style and luxury, yet lacked extravagance and overabundance of riches, instead possessing a well-maintained balance of practicality and effect. The large table with multiple chairs, with many taken, were stationed, with at the head of it sitting 3 persons, 2 women and 1 man, with the latter possessing the absolute authority and power in here and all of Land of Water. This man in a matter 3 years had gone from nobody to lord of Kamakura, to daimyo of a war-torn and ravaged country, and now a feudal lord of a restored and prospering country, with his name spoken with respect and admiration by his friends, and envy and whisper by his enemies. Naruto Uzumaki, dressed in the garments befitting his station, sat at the head of this council, flanked to his right by his wife, Raikou, and to his left was his second official wife. A goddess-like beauty with long dark blue hair with blue eyes, possessing a mature posture, along with an aura that made others look and listen to her. She was Asagi Imagawa, the last member of the once reigning Imagawa family, who once reigned all of Land of Water, yet were practically all wiped out, and now consisted only of Hikari. While he listened to the reports made by his ministers about the state of affairs, Naruto could not help but drift a little into the past and memories, recalling how he went from a lord of Kamakura to becoming a daimyo of Land of Water. Just as Mei and Raikou had predicted, there were absolutely no problems for Naruto to assume the position of lord and obtain noble status, but that was where the immediate good news had ended. While the people now saw the former rebels as heroes and Yagura's forces with their coalition was shattered, the Land of Water descended into even more bloodshed and chaos, as the pocket kingdoms of warlords shattered into counties and areas and warred with each other, driven by ambitious and greedy people. With daimyo effectively powerless and the sole force able to bring back the order being Mei and Raikou's army, they were effectively charged with doing so, as was Naruto by the order of the court and daimyo personally. After consolidating and regrouping, they went to work cleaning up the mess and returning order and control in the lawless and ravaged counties, provinces and towns, with the speed and efficiency that was unlike anything the people had seen before. In the matter of weeks entire provinces were reclaimed and order was restored, with quite a few of those being freed solely by Naruto, increasing his fame even further and earning him respect and authority from the others. The newlywed lord of Kamakura quickly showed the aptitude for not just warfare and jutsu, but also for command, strategy, politics and diplomacy, and with the tutoring from Raikou and his own learning, Naruto soon gained not just a prominent place in the forces, but became its third leader, alongside Mei and Raikou. And with every victory won, every town and city freed and every life saved, fame and glory of Naruto grew, as did the belief in his divine origin, which had spread like wildfire ever since his appearance, with even shinobi and samurai being not above believing that he was someone chosen by gods. Conveniently, neither Mei nor Raikou had spoken out against it, nor did Naruto, and they simply allowed this notion to persist, for it did not cause any trouble for them, instead bringing more certain validity and power to them. Eventually, after about 7 months of warfare, Land of Water was unified and freed from rebels, bandits, rogues and warlords, and for a time it seemed like peace would finally reign. However, those hopes were quickly crushed when the water daimyo died in strange circumstances, and due to him being childless and without any immediate male heirs, the capital of the Land of Water, Narumi, erupted into a civil strife and chaos. Factions and candidates for the throne began an all-out war for the throne, brothers and cousins killing each other, with the Imagawa effectively destroying each other. Naturally, noble lords and their forces were also getting involved, and it all promised to spill into another round of civil war, with only Naruto, Mei, Raikou and their immediate allies and retainers staying out of it all. Officially, Naruto stayed out of it all because he tended Kamakura and his own lands, as well as retainers and vassals that were granted to him by the court, but after it became clear that the new war was going to break out in the land, he called upon his own forces and quickly marched upon the capital. At first, it was assumed that he was going to pledge himself to one faction or another, but instead of doing any of that, he instead seized the capital with his own forces, declared an immediate ceasefire, and imprisoned all of the participating nobles, samurai, shinobi and candidates for the throne. Most of the seized nobles and surviving Imagawa members believed that such a thing would not go unpunished, yet as it turned out, the people of Narumi and Land of Water didn't even lift a finger, along with the rest of the samurai, shinobi and nobles. The simple fact was that the people were just too tired of war, chaos, wanted peace and stability, and right now, the one who was bringing it to them was Naruto Uzumaki, Lord of Kamakura. Even if he was a de facto usurper, the nobles and people that stayed out of it all saw him as someone fit to rule, given his now legendary status and divine origin that was now widely believed to be true. And yet, Naruto didn't act as a despot and tyrant, instead choosing to summon the most prominent members of nobility, religion and people, compassing a council and charging said council with deciding who should rule the Land of Water. In a near unanimous vote, Naruto Uzumaki was chosen to ascend the throne of water and take the position and status as daimyo of water, and it was by the choice of the people, an unheard of thing, that Naruto was made into ruler of one of the 5 great nations. To legitimize his status and transition of power, Asagi Imagawa, daughter of the deceased daimyo who had fled to Kamakura for safety, wed him and assumed the position of the main wife, though at this point there was no such thing as main or secondary. Right after this, Naruto went on to finally end this bloody circus, and he did so extremely efficiently and ruthlessly, by beheading the instigators of this royal crisis, ending almost all of the Imagawa family, as well as many noble families. After suppressing the initial rebels and families of the deceased, Naruto went on to reform the administration of the provinces, redistribute land, standardize taxation and much more, not to mention finally begin the restoration of the Land of Water. The next 2 years Naruto had spent on restoring Land of Water and then advancing its station by improving it in whatever way he could, and his hard and diligent work showed results already. Land of Water was for the first time in nearly a century fully at peace, and people finally could live in peace and stability without the fear of war or bandits. Cities, villages, infrastructure, agriculture, internal and external trade, all of that and more improved by leaps and bounds, bringing wealth and prosperity to what was considered once the second weakest great land. Under Naruto's rule, Land of Water once again became a naval trading powerhouse, serving as the midway point between West and East, with its captains sailing the seas and selling valuables and wares that were produced in Land of Water. Hidden Mist Village and its shinobi also were restored and empowered, doing away with its bloody traditions and ways, instead focusing on moving forward, though Naruto's reforms had made the land safer than ever. Yet he did not forget about his shinobi and made sure they were in top condition, had both funding and contracts, and with his wealth and power, there were bound to appear those who would want to take advantage of it. Skirmishes between lands were nothing new, and shinobi of the great nations often clashed in small-scale fights or proxy conflicts, and in case of Land of Water, Iwagakure and Kumagakure were more than eager enough to test the waters for a new conflict. If at first soon after the end of wars they did find success, now they found only death, for Kurigakure shinobi and samurai of water were more than ready to repel and defeat them. Naruto had to commend Mei for her leadership and reforms, which had made the Kurigakure shinobi into a force to be reckoned with, and with the many shinobi clans returning or migrating to Land of Water, they were well on their way to becoming the #1 shinobi power, and that is without possessing a tailed beast. Once he was done shifting through his memories, Naruto's full attention turned back to the council and the reports as he raised his head and looked with his strong eyes at the current minister who was making the report. Over the years, he did do away with his mane of hair and instead opted for a more manageable and shorter style, with his hair mostly pulled back and reaching his neck, with a few short strands of it falling over his forehead. The change in hairstyle allowed him a completely clear sight, while his wives appreciated the fact that they could fully look at his strong and regal face. Raising his hand a little to signal that he has heard enough, Naruto spoke up. Good work on restoring the main Takeda Road, Yoshitsugu. I will be expecting your full report within 2 weeks. The said minister bowed his head in respect, while Naruto turned his head to the next one. Mitsunari, what's the status of our traders in the Land of Fire? You reported at the earlier session that they were facing animosity from the local traders and even nobles. Yes, Millard, as I have reported 2 weeks ago, our traders and merchants were being pushed away out of the markets or outright denied access to it. While initially those were isolated cases, they have, unfortunately, evolved. Mitsunari began his report. 2 days ago, I received verified information that the Fire Daimyo and his court had issued an edict that increased the taxation of our merchants all throughout the Land of Fire on the basis of their so-called unfair advantage over their local traders. Furthermore, the governors and city heads were given permission to set taxation rates and to officially deny our merchants into towns without needing a reason for it. And what is the reasoning that Fire Daimyo and his court used to justify such a drastic action? Asagi asked with a cold controlled tone, speaking with the authority afforded to her by her station, power and ability. If they are aware of the fact that our merchants and traders can rely upon the protection and support of the Water Court, why does the Fire Court so openly seek to antagonize us? We do not have any concrete information on that, milady. However, ministers and several other merchants, as well as I, believe that they have taken such a stance due to our increased trade with lands of wind, snow and water, with the former and latter having once been their primary trade partners. Mitsunari responded. As your majesties are aware, soon after the return of 4th Hokage to Konoha, all of those lands opted to first limit their diplomatic ties with the Land of Fire and after our appeals to them, have officially ended their treaties. Their current actions can be considered as a retaliation for our diplomatic and trading success, and by doing this they either hope to limit our influence or gain compensation for their losses. Minister Ishida, do you have possible solutions or responses to this situation? Raikou asked him, with Mitsunari nodding. Ministers Atani, Yukita and I have compiled several potential responses for this situation. If His Majesty wishes, we'll present them to him at the earliest opportunity. Mitsunari responded, with Naruto thinking about it and answering. I will hear you out about it tomorrow before noon, Mitsunari. Yoshitsugu and Hideya, you two will present your options to me alongside Mitsunari and his proposal. Naruto told them, before turning to Mei. Lady Mizukage, what is the status of the shinobi forces, and what can you report about the activities of other hidden villages and their forces? Since the start of the spring, there were no incursions into our lands by the forces of other hidden villages, and our informants state that currently Kumagakure and Iwagakure are more focused on dealing with internal matters rather than trying to probe our defenses. Mei reported in the official tone. In Iwagakure, Inoki is trying to maintain control over his more bellicose shinobi, who wish to take revenge on Konoha for what had happened in the Third Great War, while in Kumagakure, 4th Raikage is ramping up his military preparations, though it is unclear whether he is planning to launch an attack or is just doing his usual blistering. Nothing out of the ordinary. Naruto commented. Any news about Konohagakure and Tsunade? Our relations with Tsunade are stable and growing stronger by the day. We have approved an exchange program to learn from one another's tactics and strategies, and our defensive pact has been fully approved and ratified. Current Kazuki Ijigara is very open towards improving our relations further and has suggested that our villages send respective ambassadors on a permanent basis. Mei stated to Naruto. As for Konohagakure, our sources indicate that for now their primary focus remains the restoration of their power after the attack by Tsunade and Orochimaru 3 years ago. While 4th Hokage is back in power, it would appear that their local council, which has gained far more authority during his absence, limits his power, and they are not so openly supportive of him. While their twin Jinchuriki do possess the 9 tails, we have reliable information on the fact that they are still unable to fully control its power. Furthermore, with Orochimaru still at large and his Itagakure still active, they still have to deal with it, though it would appear that Minato Namikaze is less interested in Orochimaru. In fact, their primary focus currently remains the same as it was before the Akatsuki. The group of S-rank rogue shinobi mercenaries is of greater import to him than a man who had nearly destroyed his village and got away alive and with mostly intact forces. Gincho asked, with Mei nodding to her. Lady Mizukage, can you explain why Hokage take such active interest in them? Aside from the fact that Orochimaru is their former member and that Itachi Uchiha is still among their numbers, all I can speculate is that the reason for such an interest is that Akatsuki seemed to take particular interest in the tailed beasts and their hosts. Mei stated. Of course, Kurigakure and Land of Water do not have any of those present in our possession. However, such an interest in tailed beasts is concerning at the very least, and given their members, they certainly possess the capacity to capture one or several of them. This is the possible reason why Minato Namikaze is so preoccupied with them. Aside from that, I have nothing more to say. Naruto nodded to her. If nobody has anything more to report or suggest, then this council session is adjourned. You may return to your duties. And with this said, the ministers rose up and bowed to Naruto and left the chambers, while he and his women stepped out of the chambers and onto the balcony, overlooking the current capital of the Land of Water. Nothing out of the ordinary. I can't help but like it. Naruto said with a small smile as he and his wives stood at the balcony, Raikou and Mei softly wrapping their hands around each of his own. There is nothing strange about it, especially after how tumultuous things were 2 years ago. Raikou said softly as she laid her head on his shoulder. Looking at Kamakura now, it's hard to think that just 3 years ago it was one of the smaller cities, but now it is the beating heart of our land, as prosperous and thriving as the capital. And it's all thanks to you, Naruto. You give me too much credit. Without people like Mitsunari, Yoshitsugu, Hideya and others who earnestly and wholeheartedly work for it, and without the 3 of you, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish it all. Naruto responded with a small smile. Ever the humble person. While it is nice for the public, you do not have to pretend with us. After all, we 3 here know all your secrets, especially the naughty kind. Mei said with a flirtatious tone. Do take pride in yourself and your work, Naruto, if not for your own sake, then for ours. After all, we do love it when you take control of the situation, hard and mercilessly. She said with a husky tone, with Asagi huffing at this. But you always have to be so crass and open about such things, Mei. Asagi looked at her with a disapproving eye. The last thing people need to know is what is going on in their daimyo's bedroom. Oh, I think they know quite well what is going on in there, especially when it is your turn to be conquered, my dear. Mei said with a wink, while Asagi blushed up a storm. Stop it. Raikou, how can you stand her being so? Even after all this time, Asagi could not fully handle Mei and her near-open discussions of intimacy. I grew used to it, and besides, I do not mind people talking about me and our husband. Raikou responded. If anything, I do find it somewhat amusing, hearing maids or these young ladies whispering about how our husband can take us all in one night and coming up with the various ways we make love. Yes, they are quite amusing, though it might be best to not tell them all the details. We wouldn't want to crush their meager fantasies with the overwhelming reality. Mei suggested. Those poor girls wouldn't be able to handle knowing the true potency of our lord. May giggled suggestively, with Naruto shaking his head at that. I think that is enough of such talk. We don't want Asagi to blush up even more than she already is. Naruto told them, with the other agreeing, before he remembered something. It's almost time. You have an appointment with a minister. You didn't tell us. Raikou said with a bit of a surprised look, with Naruto shaking his head. No, it's not one of the ministers. Rei had asked to have lunch with me at the Uzumaki mansion and said she wished to discuss some matters of the clan. Naruto told them. More like she is trying to make you spend more time with her, using any opportunity she can get. Asagi commented in a calm and collected manner, without any hostility. I have to give her credit for persistence and diligence in her approach. It is not like that, Asagi. At least, not completely. Naruto sighed. Sure, Rei can be suggestive and flirtatious, quite like May, but when she wishes to discuss serious matters, she is fully committed to doing that. Yet you cannot deny the fact that she is more than willing to become your concubine, or rather, your clan wife, as she called it. Raikou reminded him. After all, you are the son of Amaterasu, and the man responsible for giving the Uzumaki clan a new home and a chance to rebuild here in Kamakura. Given the history of the Uzumaki and all you've done for them and her, it's obvious she is more than just eager to become yours alone. And if anything, we wouldn't mind a bit of an expansion in our ranks. The more the merrier, as they say. May chuckled at that, with Naruto sighing at that. And what if I were to say that I am content with just the three of you? Naruto asked them. Then we would call you selfish and heartless. May jokingly answered. You are daimyo of Land of Water and a demigod in all but name, Naruto. Compared to you, most daimyo have from 20 to 50 concubines and wives, with some exceeding that, and they are a joke when compared to you. And while you only take those you care and love, we all know your heart can fit more than just the three of us, or rather your virility and stamina are far more than just the three of us can handle. And yet I do not hear you complain about either of those. Naruto noted. But the way you take us, we can't exactly complain, figuratively and literally afterwards. Raikou chuckled a little before she kissed his cheek, leaning closer to his ear. Let's not pretend that you do not find her attractive in looks and personality, only a liar or a blind man would say it. If you fear our response, then don't, for we've already told her that we approve of her and gave her all the encouragement we could. Plotting schemes behind my back, are we? Naruto jokingly asked them. It would seem you need some discipline, for good ladies do not do such things behind their husband's back. Yes, it would seem we do need some discipline. And we have been very bad ladies as of late. May played along. Will our Lord teach us proper etiquette and morals tonight? Raikou asked quite daringly, while Asagi could not bring herself to play along. Do you really have to say it like that? It's embarrassing enough as it is, T2 asked T2. Asagi stammered, with Naruto turning to her and putting his hand on her cheek calming her. It is part of the fun, but if it makes you uncomfortable, we can always stop, Asagi. Naruto assured her, with her feeling a little more confident, deciding to respond. And no. Perhaps our Lord C could make it homey earlier tonight, so that we could attend him more. Asagi said with a red face in an act that was solely reserved for when she is with Naruto and is open to intimacy, with Naruto smiling and leaning to her ear. I will, Asagi, now that you are wishing for it. Naruto assured her, before giving her a kiss on the lips, which she shyly answered to. And what will my lady attend to me? He asked her quite daringly, with Asagi knowing what to answer. Oh, only in what her husband desires. Asagi responded, with all of them knowing what it meant. At this point, the answer didn't matter to them, for it was always the same as it used to be, and all three ladies knew it, for they knew that while Naruto appreciated romance and intimacy, when he gave them such a question, it meant that the incoming night shall be one of passion and lust. And that meant that there would be no such need for fancy clothes or intricate lingerie to entice their lord, for nothing enraptured him more than the natural beauty of his wives. After bidding his wives goodbye for the time and giving each of them a kiss, Naruto departed with his guards the castle, eagerly awaiting the night that is to come and already planning ahead his talk with Rei. And all the while he enjoyed his current life and wished that it could stay the same and never change, yet in the back of his mind he knew that it was not to be. Konoha. Hokage's office. Minato Namikaze, the reinstated 4th Hokage and the Yellow Flash of the Leaf Village, was sitting in his office and contemplating the situation he and his village were currently in right now. While few could argue with the fact that Konoha was currently at its strongest it had ever been, and with the peace reigning people prospered, Minato and those who paid attention to the things and what was really happening knew that there were quite a few issues brewing up within and outside of Konoha. And this was not something that Minato had to deal with when he returned with his family back to Konoha at an earlier date than he and Kushina had planned, something that was brought about by Naruto's death. While a normal parent would still lament the fact that his son had died and that he had to face such great mistreatment and pain from near the very day he was born, he was not a normal parent, especially towards Naruto. Minato lamented not his death, but the fact that it came so early and had ruined the plans he, his teacher, third Hokage and Kushina, had made years in advance. Both he and Kushina had long since come to terms with the fact that this was a necessary sacrifice, made for the good of the people, and there was no point in thinking what would be if they had done differently. Doubt was not something that they needed to deal with, so they accepted the fact that Naruto was a sacrifice that needed to be done, and that was it. They were shinobi, and it was expected, for the good of the leaf and its people, to make whatever sacrifice was necessary, and this was no different in his mind. Naruto was made into a sacrifice for the sake of Leaf, his family and the whole world, and as Jiraiya argued, there was no better honor than to die to help bring world peace, which Menma and Natsu were meant to establish. It was always an established fact that Naruto would not live for too long, perhaps perish and die before or shortly after turning 20 or so, but to die at 13, and when his siblings were not yet able to gain control of Kyuubi. This complicated matters quite seriously, as the village lost its Jinchuriki, and soon after the elation of the death of supposed Demon Fox vanished, the realization of their weakness and insecurity settled in. Fortunately, before things could deteriorate to panic, Minato and his family made their return, and with the recommendation and command of Fire Daimyo, he assumed the control and command of Konoha and its shinobi. While the populace generally greeted the return of their greatest shinobi with happiness and elation, behind the closed doors, the council had made it clear that they were not very pleased with the fact that they were lied to about this whole affair. The civilian and shinobi portions of the council have already gotten used to the fact that they held a great amount of power and even were able to bend Hokage to their will at times, and finding out that there was such a scheme in place was not pleasing for them. Not to mention the elders who have long since grown comfortable seeing themselves as equals to the Hokage, and they were not about to give Minato any more power than they thought he deserved, for he was a youngster who needed to learn how to respect his seniors. In short, Minato returned to a not fully prepared village that he could steer in whatever direction, but to a viper's nest with power plays, factions, schemes and plots, with him being forced to somehow navigate it all, just to manage to get his will done. What also complicated matters was the fact that Orochimaru was still at large, and with Uchiha Sasuke as his apparent apprentice, and a whole hidden village under his command, and he had managed to shatter the myth of Konoha's complete superiority and invincibility. While the damage done during the invasion was long since repaired, it still caused long-term ramifications down the line that Minato and Konoha were dealing with. Their old enemies, Iwa and Kumo, were again rearming themselves and quite clearly itching for a rematch, while Suna had pulled away from their alliance about a year back, based on the unreliability of Konoha in matters of security and assistance. To add more insult to that, mere days later it became known to Konoha that Suna was now in the process of improving relations with Kurigakure and Land of Water through their daimyo. And this was where Minato's current concern and thoughts lied with the Land of Water and its relatively new daimyo, a man who calls himself Naruto Uzumaki, and who is hailed by the people of water as a savior, demigod and more. In all honesty, Minato and other high-ranking members of Konoha did not know what to think of this man, for their information was limited and not complete, for Kurigakure and its shinobi were extremely good at dealing with their informants. Could he be just someone sharing the name of his son, or was he using it for some kind of scheme? What was known and understood by Minato was the fact that this man had risen in an extraordinary notion, having unified and strengthened the long fractured and ravaged land, turning it into a powerhouse that everyone was forced to acknowledge. Their economic and trading influence were felt even here, while its shinobi and regular forces were on a whole new level, and this was causing quite a concern to the Fire Daimyo and his court, hence why they issued Minato a special order. One that was bound by duty to complete, hence why he ordered for specifically selected shinobi to arrive here so that they were to be given a mission. Soon enough, the door opened and through it stepped his wife, Kushina Uzumaki, Jiraiya, Kakashi Haddock, Kurana Yuhi, Asuma Saratobi and his former team, consisting of Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka and Choji Akimichi. Once they were inside and the doors closed, Minato began to talk. Thank you all for arriving on such short notice. I am sure I do not have to tell you that the mission you are about to be assigned is of utmost importance and that you are not to speak of it to anyone. Once you are assigned, you will leave at the soonest opportunity and will not return until it is completed. Minato spoke up to them in an official Hokage tone. This is a deep undercover recon mission, which may last from several weeks to half a year, if needed, and will carry with itself all of the dangers of such a mission. If any of you wish to quit, do so now and nobody will hold it against you. Kid, I'm sure you know that those who are here are fully aware of all the dangers and risks and that we'll still take up this mission. Jiraiya responded with his usual tone. Just give us the details and watch us do our best. My former team and I are ready for anything, Lord Hokage. Asuma stated, with Kurenai and his former team nodding to it. I'm personally itching for a mission. It's been ages since I've been to the field, so come on, Minato, just tell us what you want us to do. Kushina eagerly answered. Well, I've assumed that this isn't going to be a walk in the park, but whatever you have for us, we'll do it, sensei. Kakashi responded, with Minato satisfied with their responses, opened up his drawer and pulled out their scrolls for them, before giving it to them. These are your specific orders that you complete while on that mission. Now as for the mission itself, it comes directly from the Fire Court and Lord Daimyo himself. Your goals are to infiltrate the Land of Water and to make a full assessment of their military, political, economic and shinobi situation, and along with that, you are to investigate and learn everything you can about its current political leadership, in particular about their water daimyo. Minato stated to them, with the people he summoned immediately growing serious, while Kushina looked at him with surprise. Lord Hokage, you mean our orders are to investigate whether or not that water daimyo really is Naruto or not? Shikamaru immediately asked, with Kushina stiffening at the mention of her discarded son. I was under the impression that he died in battle with Sasuke 3 years ago, and his body was destroyed after it was retrieved. Yes, it was, and while the general consensus in the council and me is that this man is either simply sharing his name or is using it for some reason, we simply do not know anything concrete aside from his recent activities in the last 3 years, and even then we only have second-hand reports. Minato stated. It is your job to establish who he is and what his intentions and plans are. From what we know for certain is that he is 22 to 26 years old and clearly has had extensive shinobi training, possibly having been one, and is considered to be extremely skilled and powerful in ninjutsu, jinjutsu, gyukujutsu and taijutsu. Jiraiya can fill you all in on what we know about him right now. This Naruto appeared out of nowhere and if reports are to be believed, single-handedly ended the battle at Kamakura by killing Yagura by, quote, manifesting a divine power from the gods and slaying Yagura in his tailed beast mode. Sounds far-fetched, I know, but most of the reports we have all have such things in them told about him, with many going as far as to call him son of Amaterasu herself, the goddess of sun, life and light, as well as royal power. Jiraiya stated. She is also considered to be the progenitor of the Uzumaki clan and our main patron goddess. Kushina added. To so boldly claim to be her son. This man is either seeking death or is plain stupid, for no one would dare to do so. I doubt he is even a real Uzumaki, just some no-name who thought to usurp my family's name. Well, regardless whether he is in Uzumaki or not, people prefer to believe he is at least descendant from Amaterasu, and with the feats he was displaying, it only served to reinforce his supposed divinity. After the battle, he married a prominent feudal lady by the name of Raikou Minamoto and became lord of Kamakura, and after their forces and the current Mizukage de facto reunified the Land of Water, he returned back for a few months to Kamakura. However, when the water daimyo was poisoned and the court and the capital erupted into bloodshed and chaos, Naruto went there with his army after having taken Asagi Imagawa, the daughter of the late daimyo, as his new wife. Jiraiya continued. Instead of pledging to any of the factions, he instead seized the capital and the castle, imprisoning the feuding forces, and after a supposedly democratic council, he was elected new daimyo of water, and right after that, he executed everyone who had participated in the bloodshed. In one fell swoop, he had effectively eliminated anyone who would have opposed him and his reign. From what I heard, it sounds like this man had actually orchestrated the entire affair and used it to seize power and become daimyo himself, while using the Imagawa princess to legitimize his reign. Kakashi added. Whatever the case, he had gone from a simple lord to daimyo in a matter of a year, and that is not something that most men can accomplish. Wait, you said that he was already married to that Raikou woman, right? How could he marry an Imagawa princess if he already had a wife? Ino asked, oblivious to that fact, with Shikamaru sighing from her foolishness. What a drag. Ino, didn't your mother and father tell you about such things as polygamy and how it's still practiced? Shikamaru asked her, with Ino shaking her head. Man, what a drag. Basically, a man of noble origin and status, from a low-ranking samurai to a daimyo, has the right to take up more than one wife, with most of the women taken becoming his concubines. Shinobi also have that option, but generally avoid doing it unless it is to preserve the clan's special abilities, traditions and clan itself. So this Naruto might have more than just those 2 wives, in fact, he might have a harem of up to 20 or 30 women in it and it would be totally normal. You? What a pig. Ino said with disgust. I can see how this person would be able to destroy the entire daimyo family while also taking the last of its members to bed. Man, he must be the absolute worst. Maybe, yet he is also the man who unified the country and made it into a force to be reckoned with again. Kurenai added. According to what I heard, he made the Land of Water into a prosperous and wealthy country, as well as brought it peace and unheard before stability. And while he is ruthless with his enemies and merciless towards those who dare oppose him, one can't argue with the results. What's that, Kurenai? Am I hearing a hint of admiration in your tone? Asuma asked her in a bit of a teasing fashion, with Kurenai simply rolling her eyes at that one. All I am saying is that this Naruto Uzumaki, or whatever his actual real name, is certainly not someone to underestimate. Kurenai stated, before turning to Minato. What exactly do you wish for us to learn about him, Lord Hokage? Within those scrolls are your specific orders, which will give you individual tasks to accomplish, so you can learn all about it there. Your first real challenge will be getting to Land of Water and Kamakura, the current capital, undetected, and unfortunately, it would appear that we cannot use the usual shinobi routes and ways. Minato stated to them. Kurigakure shinobi have so far been able to intercept and either eliminate or detain every incursion into the Land of Water, and our Anbu have had no luck trying to get anywhere close. Hence why you will be traveling deep undercover, with Jiraiya providing you the means to accomplish that. You have until dawn to prepare for this mission, so everyone, save for Jiraiya and Kushina, are dismissed. The shinobi bowed to him and left, leaving him alone with his teacher and wife. Okay, kid, what is it that you want to talk to us about? Jiraiya asked him, knowing that Minato would not have held them back if it was not important. About 2 days ago, I received a report from Kamakura from one of our undercover agents, working for a trader in the Land of Wood. According to his report, there are members of an actual clan Uzumaki present and living in Kamakura, in large numbers. In fact, he has stated that they are residing there on a permanent basis, and that their current leader, named Rei Uzumaki, is very close to the daimyo, and that he is considered in all but name their head. Minato revealed to them what he had heard with Kushina looking at him with shock. Minato, are you sure that this information can be trusted? How many Uzumaki are there in Kamakura? Kushina immediately asked him. I do not know the exact number, but he stressed that it was enough to count for a standard shinobi clan, like with Nara or Hyuga. I'm aware that the Uzumaki were once one of the largest in terms of numbers clans in all of lands, which was part of the reason they were able to control an entire country on their own, not to mention having about 5 small clans as their vassals. Minato said. Your specific mission, Kushina, will be to come into contact with them quietly and use your connection to them to gain information about Naruto and if possible, convince them to come to the Hidden Leaf village. Given the history between our people, I am hopeful it can be accomplished without much issue. Of course it will be accomplished, Minato. I am a member of the main branch of Uzumaki clan and I don't know who this Rei is, so she is bound to be just another one of the side branch members who got lucky. Kushina assured him. Konoha and Uzumaki have a long and strong history together, so of course the people will come here when they learn that we are ready to accept them. I'm glad to hear about it. Minato smiled at her, while he turned to Jiraiya. Your job, sensei, will be to set up a proper information network in the Land of Water, so we may actually start to gain reliable and up-to-date information. Well, that won't be too hard to do, but I do have to ask about something, kid. Jiraiya said. In case this daimyo actually turns out to be who we don't think he is, what are we to do? You mean, if he is our Naruto, somehow reborn and returned older and fully grown up? Minato asked him with skepticism. I thought you didn't believe in such things, sensei. Perhaps before, but after consulting with the toads about this whole situation. Let's just say that when they heard about this man, they told me to be very careful with him, and that while Naruto Uzumaki I knew is dead, this one carries in him the will, might and potential that was once to belong to the dead one. I honestly do not know what to make of it all, but… Jiraiya sighed. Just in case, what if it is him, Minato, what are your orders? If it really is our Naruto, do you think there is any chance we could convince him to return back to Konoha? Kushina asked, although she already knew the answer. And give up being a daimyo, one of the most powerful nations, with uncountable riches and power just to be a lowly genin. Maybe with the previous Naruto it would work since all he wanted was to be a Hokage, but if this one is even half as good as the stories make him out to be, we might be dealing with someone who could give even Shikaku Nara a run for his money and plots and strategies. Jiraiya told her, with Kushina sighing. Still, we might be able to benefit in some form or manner from him, if really is our Naruto. If he really is the same and one person, then use it to our advantage, if not to gain his trust and friendship, then to undermine his position and power. Minato stated to them. I quite doubt that the nobles and people of Land of Water will follow some failed genin from Konoha once they learned of his true origin. A month later. Kamakura. The travel to Kamakura took much longer than normally would have if Konoha's shinobi had taken a direct route, but since it was obvious that Kurigakure and their new allies, Suna, were watching such approaches, they had to change the strategy. Instead of a direct incursion straight away, they opted to first travel to one of Land of Water's trading partners, Land of Wood, and there find a wood trader who would be looking for some guards to hire. Land of Wood, according to Jiraiya, was one of the main suppliers of expensive lumber, and their traders were a regular sight in Kamakura and other ports, and Jiraiya was certain that he would be able to find them one such trader. While for a few days they had no luck after arriving at the port town, they did catch a break when Jiraiya was able to locate one merchant who was going to travel to Land of Water and after some convincing, managed to get them hired. The problem however was that first he would make several stops at other countries and ports, so shinobi were forced to patiently wait until they arrived at Kamakura almost a month after setting out. The journey here was quite uneventful, boring and downright demoralizing at times, but when they saw the bustling great city that was Kamakura, it had actually served to lift up their spirits. The current new capital city of Land of Water looked like it was from another world when compared to the other capital cities, with even Land of Fire City looking rather underwhelming when compared to it. A bustling full port that was packed with ships and traders in the harbor, beyond which began the expansive city, with buildings towering over the fully paved streets, with electricity and lanterns everywhere. The city streets were packed to the brim with citizens, travelers, traders and more, and to Konoha's shinobi, it seemed like all of the water country could actually fit in here. Once they were docked and having bid their goodbye to their way in, Konoha's shinobi, disguised as simple-looking Ronins, made their way through the streets, marveling at it and the people in here. Man, would you look at the size of this place. This city makes Konoha look like some backwater town or something like that. Chaoji voiced his surprise as he looked around. And there are so many people, it almost makes me dizzy. Oh look. There are so many restaurants and cafes. Maybe we should make a stop at one of them and get a bait to it. You had your breakfast just an hour ago, Chaoji. I'm pretty certain that you and your stomach can survive for a few hours without local food. Asuma told him as he too observed the place. But you are right, there are a lot of people here, more than I ever saw in Fire Capital, that's for certain, and we aren't even at the city center yet. If I were to guess, this is a district allocated to merchants and travelers from overseas, where they can find lodgings for their stay. Might be a good place to start gathering information, what do you think? I don't know about you, but I really want to see what their market and shops are like. Look at what the girls here are dressed in, they all look like they are nobles in these dresses and kimonos, and this is the stuff I would only wear on special occasions, and they wear it just for an out and about walk. Ino commented. Oh, look. There is a marketplace. After that, Ino and Chaoji went on ahead, leaving their senior comrades behind, with Asuma letting out a sigh. They are supposed to be Chuninins, yet she still acts like a genin. Asuma said aloud, but making sure nobody from around her didn't hear him. Well, it would appear we are in luck. With such a crowd here, it would be easier for us to get by undetected and start getting the information. Asuma concluded as they reached the marketplace and saw just how massive it was, with many shops and traders selling everything, from jewelry to clothes and more. Well, this certainly puts Konoha's market to shame. Kurenai commented as she surveyed the busy place, before turning to Jiraiya. Do you have reliable sources of information here, Jiraiya? Afraid not, but I'm sure I'll be able to find a way to piece things together, so to speak. Jiraiya said as he looked around before picking one of the local traders and moving to him. Hey there, how's the trade going? Hello, yeah, trade's going well. You are in luck, I still have some fine fabrics if you are interested for a reasonable price. Better buy them now, cause before the end of the festival tomorrow, I'll be all out of it. Merchant told Jiraiya with him deciding to decline. I think I'll pass for now. You say there is going to be a festival tomorrow? Jiraiya asked with the merchants nodding to him. What's the occasion for a celebration? Sakura blooming. No, we had that one already. This is a festival in honor of the end of bloodshed and all the wars 2 years ago. Merchant informed Jiraiya. Ever since our new daimyo took power, he's brought us peace and prosperity, not to mention unheard security and stability. Just some 5 years ago I couldn't go to another city on this island without getting me a whole squad of mercenaries, but now I can go all around the country without any fear that I would be robbed. Sounds like your new daimyo is a pretty serious person. He must not really like it when people don't do what he says or say things that aren't nice about him. Jiraiya noted seemingly offhand, with merchants coughing at that. I'd like to see someone stupid or rather ignorant enough to criticize Lord Naruto, especially after all he has done for the people. In just 2 years he has fixed practically everything that the Imagawa and their advisors have destroyed or made worse, and that's not to mention finally dealing with all those warlords and bandits. Merchants started with fervor. All that the previous daimyo cared about were themselves, while Lord Uzumaki is actually living up to his status and does his duties. Yeah, I heard all that, and yet I also heard that he had caused the downfall of the Imagawa to begin with, not to mention eradicated all but 1 or 2 of them. Jiraiya reminded me. That's what they say in other great countries, I've heard all that plenty of times. I do not know myself, and to be quite honest, I am actually glad that the Imagawa are gone, save for Lady Asagi, Amaterasu bless her. If anything, Lord Uzumaki has done us a great favor disposing of those bastards for good. Merchant stated with conviction. You definitely never were in the previous capital during another one of the turmoil, when a daimyo died or something like that. Streets ran red with blood from all the fighting, and nobody was spared, whether a participant or just some local unlucky soul who happened to be there at a wrong time. Now with Lord Uzumaki in charge, we don't have to worry about some overly ambitious fool starting trouble again. Even if it means possibly getting killed, if it means peace is preserved. Jiraiya asked, with the merchant looking at him with a not-so-friendly eye. I don't know why you are asking all of this, nor do I think I ever heard your name. In fact, you've got a rather funny accent, one that I think I've heard before, but I can't figure out where. Merchant narrowed his eyes at Jiraiya, who understood that he had overstayed his welcome. Well, sorry for being a bother, I'll just. Hey, watch where you are going. Jiraiya said with indignation when he nearly bumped into a tall and strong-looking young man with quite a number of scars on his face, which didn't seem to detract from his natural handsomeness. Sorry, I didn't mean to. The man tried to apologize, but didn't manage to do so when he saw Jiraiya already leave with his group, while the man looked at them with focused eyes, finding them and the man strange, before turning back to the merchant. Good day Matsuoto. Looks like I've scared off a customer of yours. The man jokingly said, with the merchant waving it off. Oh don't worry about it, Lord Namasa. That man wasn't buying anything, yet talking and asking all kinds of strange things about our daimyo and his rule. Merchant said with irritation. Honestly, he and his friends over there all look like trouble, so maybe it's best that I didn't sell them anything. Anyway, enough about them. Are you here for your order? Yes, and plus pack me that black one with yellow motif in there, same amount as of roll as I ordered before. Namasa said, with the merchant immediately preparing the order. So, what exactly did that weirdo talk about our daimyo? Oh, you know, the same old things that all of them high-class foreigners like to say about him. How he destroyed the Imagawa, took power and everything else. As if any of them actually know anything about how things were here before Lord Uzumaki ascended the throne. Merchant said. Although, there was something strange about the way he was speaking, his accent. Oh, now I remember. He's got the accent of a man from a fire country. The man spoke with surprise as he remembered, with Namasa raising his eyebrow at that. From fire country? Are you sure about that? Namasa asked him. Yes, now I'm certain about it. I've actually made business with traders in Land of Waves when they were still trading back a few years ago, so yeah, I know my accent when I hear them. Merchant said as he finished the order, while Namasa turned to look at the group of the supposed Ronin, focusing his attention on the woman with the long red hair. Once he caught sight of her face, realization sat in his face and he finally understood why he had such a strange feeling about these people. The moment he paid for the order, he sent his shadow clone with the materials back home while he had a group of infiltrators to keep an eye out for. Several hours later. Park of Red Leaves. Well that has been a waste of time. Shikamaru said tiredly as he sat on the bench under one of the trees with red leaves. All we did find out is that the people here love their daimyo and that he has ordered a great big temple built and is currently making an inspection of it as we speak. Man what a drag this has been and we'll have to do it for the next 5 months or so. Why did I agree to it? Because you wanted to get away from your mom who has been nagging you about getting your life together. No jokes, with Shikamaru groaning at that. I don't know about you, but I had a blast of a time. Well, at least one of us enjoyed themselves. Kakashi commented before looking at Chaoji chowing down on some food. Well, the two of us are enjoying ourselves. We didn't really learn all that much, but this is something. In fact, we have a chance to get a good look at this Naruto Uzumaki. I say we sneak to that new temple he is inspecting and get a good look at him. Jiraiya said, with Kushina agreeing with him. It would be good for us to know at least how he looks. If you are wondering how he looks, you should have waited for tomorrow. Suddenly a new voice startled all of the resting Konoha shinobi, forcing them to rise up and ready themselves. Lord Uzumaki doesn't really hide himself from the people and was going to make a speech and open the festivities, but I'm afraid you won't be able to witness it, Konoha shinobi. And from the trees into the open stepped the man who had bumped into Jiraiya earlier. Konoha shinobi? Friend, I think you got the wrong idea, how can we be shinobi? We are just your regular run-of-the-mill Ronins looking forward to your festival and have some fun after our work and. Jiraiya decided to try to play the legend they agreed upon, but Namasa was not convinced. Did this lie actually work on anyone? Or do you really think people are so stupid that they won't recognize the fire country accent when they hear it or won't recognize one of the 3 Sanins just because he looks like a vagabond? Namasa asked as he eyed them all up. Kakashi of the Sharingan, Asuma Saratobi, Kurenai Yuhi, and to top it all off, Jiraiya of the Toads and Kushina Namikaze. Quite a crew your Hokage decided to send here. You aren't a simple civilian, are you? And while my husband may be Namikaze, I am Uzumaki, Kushina Uzumaki of the main Uzumaki branch and direct descendant of Amaterasu herself. Kushina stated with pride, while Namasa nearly scoffed at her. Who are you and what do you want? You know, I would have been surprised if you had actually recognized me, Kushina. But then again, you do tend to forget both friends and family who are no longer all that important to you. Namasa responded before answering. Does the name Namasa ring a bell to you? Namasa. Wait. Namasa, is that really you? Kushina asked him with shock, with others looking at her. You know him, Kushina? Jiraiya asked her. Yeah, now that I look at him. It is you, Namasa. Kushina nodded to them. He and I were childhood friends back when I was still in Yuzu. His mother was my first Jujutsu instructor, and we trained together. I had thought that all of the Ai clan perished alongside others when the Yuzu fell. Many of our numbers died that day, with the intention of saving as many as we could, and my mother was among the casualties. Casualties that could have been avoided had Konoha held true to its word and aided us in defending our land and people. Namasa said with restrained anger. But no, instead you and your new home decided to sit back and let them destroy us, and even when survivors pleaded to be let in, your third Hokage and council decided to leave us to die. Well, we've survived. Namasa, I can understand that you are angry at Konoha for what had happened, but right now, I need you to put aside your anger and… Kushina tried to reason with him, but Namasa was not going to listen to her. And what? Tell you everything you and your friends here want to know, like about Naruto Uzumaki and what kind of a man he is. I've been shadowing you for quite a while, and I know what you are up against, so there's nothing you can say to convince me. Namasa stated to her. I am going to give you one chance to surrender to me right now, and you will be treated with respect and all the rights allocated to guests of daimyo. Persist, and I'll take you by force. Namasa told them with full seriousness. You honestly think that you actually stand a chance against all of us all by yourself? Kakashi asked him. You face off against the best Konoha has to offer, all by your lonesome. And who said about me being alone here? Namasa asked of him, and at that moment a squad of 7 red armor-clad warriors, armed with swords and spears, appeared from the trees and surrounded them, with Namasa discarding his civilian garments, revealing a similar suit of light red armor, with a spear appearing in his hand. I'm sure you remember what made the Ai clan so famous, Kushina. Why don't you share with your friends who we are? Clan Ai was one of the smaller clans in Yuzu, but was the most militant and battle-hardened, with their best known collectively as Red Demons, for the armor they wore and their ferocity and skill in combat. Kushina said aloud, as she unsealed a sword for herself. Namasa, you do not have to do this. No, but I want to. Namasa responded, as he readied his spear. Now then, Konoha shinobi, brace yourselves. Half a mile away. Great Amaterasu Temple. As you can see, the construction and all the polishes of the temple are complete, and now all that remains is the consecration and official opening, which you shall oversee tomorrow. Rei Uzumaki, the current official head of the Uzumaki clan, a young and stunningly beautiful woman with long flowing red hair and violet eyes, spoke to Naruto as he finished the inspection of the temple. And from then on, Amaterasu shall watch over Kamakura and protect it and its people, as well as bless your rule over this land, though I imagine you need her blessing. No, she had blessed me to do whatever I wished with my life, but you are correct, Rei, the temple is quite an architectural marvel. Naruto commented. Spacious and large enough to hold hundreds of people at the same time, yet also decorated with luxury and grace, but without exuberance, just like she would have wanted. And it was complete in such a short amount of time. You have outdone yourself, Rei. You honor me, Millard, with your words, though had you decided to personally lead the project, you would have accomplished it all in a single night, if not sooner. Rei suggested with a small smile, as they observed the temple. I must confess that at first I did not think you would take my suggestion so close to heart and allow this temple to be built. Well, you are in Uzumaki, you are also the daimyo of Land of Water, and I thought that you would use the resources and money for more prominent projects than this one. I may be daimyo now, but I am also in Uzumaki, and if I have committed myself to seeing the clan that I call my own restored and revived, I intend to do it fully. And what better way to start it than to restore its culture and traditions, not to mention bring you closer to the people here through creation of something that all can't share? Naruto asked her. The Amaterasu is a goddess for all, more so than the sage of 6 paths, and she has become a symbol that creates something that unites people from all around the world. She would not object to usage of her image if it means bringing people together, and while there are many projects that also require resources and time, one can't forget about the culture and what makes a people unique. Rei listened to him and nodded with a small smile. Spoken like a true enlightened son of Amaterasu. And while we have this opportunity, I wish to ask if you had given any thought to my proposal. Rei asked him directly, with Naruto turning to face her. You certainly know when to pick your time to ask such things, Rei. Naruto noted. And here I was trying to impress you with all the philosophical discussions. Uzumaki daimyo jokingly stated, with Rei chuckling to it. A good effort, though at this point a bit unnecessary, for I am thoroughly impressed by you, and have been so for quite a long time now, hence why my boldness when asking you if you have given thought to my wish to join you as more than just your close friend and member of Uzumaki clan. Rei said openly to Naruto. The clan and its members are fully loyal to you and are eternally in your debt for what you had done for and to us, Naruto, but to leave you without a justified reward would be at the very least ungrateful of us. And what better reward there is for a savior of an entire nation than its princess? A simple thank you would have sufficed. Naruto said dryly, with Rei shaking her head. Maybe for you, but not to me. Rei said, as she drew his gaze. We both know that I shan't relent in my desires and attempts at Naruto, and I know that I am attractive to your eye and soul. Why waste time with this indecisiveness instead of allowing us to finally embrace each other as lovers should? Maybe because I was actually trying to time it perfectly with the festival to give a certain special feel, so to speak. Naruto suggested, with Rei chuckling to him before moving closer and nearly touching his lips with her own. I see. Well, then I suppose I can wait one more day, but after that, my lord, I shall show you the true depths of an Uzumaki love and… At that moment both Real and Naruto felt a powerful spike in chakra not so far from them, which immediately ruined their moment and returned them to full seriousness. That chakra spike. It came from the park of red leaves. It's almost like there is a battle happening there. Rei said, as her sensory abilities kicked in. There is a battle, and one of my best generals is waging it with his troops, without me knowing anything about it. Naruto added, as he immediately recognized the chakra of Inamasa before his senses picked up the signatures of the people he was fighting against. Well, now this is interesting. We best pay a visit there right away. I have a feeling that Namasa has prepared quite a gift for us. At the same moment. Ugh. Kushina groaned as she tried to slash at Namasa, yet he parried with his spear and then moved it away before kicking her away. You are getting a bit slower, Kushina. Do not tell me that the cushy life in Fire Capital and now in Konoha has softened you up so much. Namasa taunted as he pressed on the attack while his red devils were engaging the rest of Konoha shinobi, keeping them occupied. And this is the infamous Red Death of Konoha. I would have thought you would be able to at least keep up a decent pace, not lag behind like this. He locked weapons with her again, with Kushina finally having a chance to speak up. What are you trying to accomplish here, Namasa? Do you honestly think that with such a small force you can take us down? Soon enough we will overpower you and get out of here before any more of your reinforcements arrives. Kushina assured him, with Namasa smirking to her. Well, then it is a good thing that my reinforcements are already here. At that very moment, he and his red devils disconnected from their enemies, distancing themselves, and in the next moment, golden chains flew towards all of the shinobi, entering their chakra systems and paralyzing them. General Inamasa, it would seem that you have been quite busy this afternoon, snuffing out such interesting rats. Naruto Uzumaki, daimyo of the Land of Water, made his appearance with Rei Uzumaki, who casted those chains out of her hand. Care to share why you did not feel it to be necessary to report the presence of Konoha shinobi here right away? My apologies, Millard, I did not wish to make such claims without first making sure that I was correct in my suspicions, and when I was, I decided to use this opportunity to lock them in one place and not let them disperse. Namasa reported. I have already dispatched for the reinforcements covertly, but I did not expect you to show up in person to deal with them. You've made quite a spectacle for me and Rei to observe via our sensory abilities, and once I sensed who exactly you were dealing with, I felt it required my personal attention. Naruto responded as he stepped closer to Konoha's shinobi, looking at them with a curious eye. Well, I have been expecting Konoha to send at least someone here for quite a long time now, but I must admit that I was not prepared to see such an ensemble. Naruto said with a smile. Boo. Are you? Jiraiya spoke with hardship through paralysis, with Naruto turning his head to him. What's the matter, pervy sage? Is your memory failing you, or do you have difficulty realizing the truth, especially when it stares right at you? Naruto asked of him as he moved closer. Well, let me dispel any and all doubts that you may have about me. In our very first meeting, I had to chase you around all of Konoha just to make you train me, and even then when you trained me, all you did teach me was a summoning jutsu and nothing else at the time. Oh, and to get me to make a proper one, you threw me into a hole in the ground, with walls of it covered in spikes. I recall Gamabunta being quite displeased when I had summoned him there just to save myself from becoming stain on the dirt. Jiraiya's eyes widened when he heard him say all this. And no, I cannot be. And Naruto? Jiraiya asked him, with Naruto smiling at him. Yes, Jiraiya. It is me, the one and only Naruto Uzumaki, the one after whom you are chasing now. Naruto responded to him and the others, revealing to them all who he really was. Chapter 3. And no, it can't be. You are lying. Kushina cried out at Naruto once she heard him say it, with him turning his eyes towards him. Naruto. He was my son, I would know if you were him, the real him. At that response, Naruto simply chuckled while shaking his head. Kushina. What he told me just now. It was only something that Naruto himself knew. Jiraiya told her, with Kushina refusing to admit that this is her son. Perhaps, but you weren't exactly being subtle in your training, so obviously people have heard all about it and he could have learned about it from second-hand sources. Shikamaru reasoned as he turned to Naruto. You are not who you claim to be, simply because facts don't add up. For instance, you are far too old to be Naruto Uzumaki, and you have a different color of eyes and tone of hair, one that is of lighter color than real Naruto's. And you also do not have the iconic whiskers, so yeah, you are nothing more than a fraud trying to be someone you really are not. And pray tell me, Shikamaru, for what, exactly, purpose would I use the name of Naruto Uzumaki if I were a fraud? Naruto asked him the most obvious question. What boons or advantages does it offer to me? In fact, just how famous was he? I will tell you he was not in any way famous, at least to the extent that it would warrant someone to adopt his persona. And yet you have adopted it for your own purposes. Shikamaru stated, with Naruto giving him a small smirk. To be perfectly honest, I did think about changing my name a couple of times, but then again, what would be the point, really? Name is only meaningful when you yourself give it a meaning, and for me, Naruto Uzumaki means something that none of you would ever understand. Naruto responded. But I see that you are not convinced, or rather don't want to believe, that I am the same old Naruto you all knew before. Well, almost all of you knew, but the way I see it, I do not have to prove anything to you. Then what's the point of you talking to us all like that? Kakashi asked him, with Naruto turning his eyes to him. Just kill us, be done with it, if this is what you intend to do. At that one Naruto laughed a little, confusing and surprising them. Kill you? And why would I do that? Because you've infiltrated my country, engaged one of my commanders and nearly tore apart this beautiful park. Naruto asked them almost sarcastically. Normally, yes, I would just be done with you, but in all honesty, I'm actually in a rather amicable mood and I have been looking forward to this meeting for quite a while. Yeah, and why is that? So you could torture and get us to spill our secrets to you? If you were the real Naruto, you would know that we would never talk. Ino said daringly, with Naruto not even paying her any mind. Tell me, why did you assume my son's identity? Answer me, you fraud. Kushina demanded to know the answer, with Rei deciding to chime in. He did not assume anything, Kushina Namikaze, he is merely using the name that you have given to him, though he has every right to change it. Rei answered for Naruto as she stepped closer with Kushina turning her eye to her. It has been quite a long time, dear cousin. I doubt you remember me, but I sure haven't forgotten you, Kushina, along with your snide remarks about my lineage. At that moment, Kushina's eyes widened as she finally recognized who it was. Rei. You survived the attack. B. But I thought that all of your family and the main branch were wiped out in the attack. Kushina said with shock, with Rei simply watching her reaction. Minato's intel said that you lead the Uzumaki now, but how can this be? You are a bastard child and were excluded from the main branch, so how can you be their leader? At that, Rei simply chuckled and answered. The fact that you still cling to these things as purity of lineage and from which branch one is shows just how little you know and understand. I lead the Uzumaki because I was chosen to lead them, as was my father before me, and as for the main branch, trueborn and bastards, none of that has any meaning for the Uzumaki clan. Rei stated to her. The segregation and separation of the clan into main and side is over as it should have been done away long before the attack. You were not there when the attack came, you didn't see how our land burned and people died, while the main branch tried to save itself at the expense of everyone else. The destruction of Yuzu destroyed more than our nation, but also our culture and identity, but it also cleansed us from what made us weak, and now the Uzumaki are united, as they should have been from the start. One clan, one family, one for all for one that was once was our creed, and it is now again. More like serving under a fraud and a bastard child of a failed warrior. Do you really think that I'll ever believe that someone like you can actually command the respect and obedience of the Uzumaki clan and its vassals? Kushina asked her. Just because you have these chains doesn't mean that you can command anything. Dispel them and I'll show what a real Uzumaki is made out of. As tempting as it sounds, Kushina, I think I'll pass. Unlike you, I do not have to prove anything, and I have grown past the age when I get ticked off by even the smallest of things. Rei said with a mocking smile, before she turned to Naruto. Millard, what is it that you wish to do with them? If I may, Lord Naruto, I would suggest that we be rid of them in this instance. Naomasa suggested, with Kushina looking at him with surprise. Well, it does sound tempting, Naomasa, I am not in the mood to draw blood, especially on the eve of the festival, and I am not all that interested in starting a war with a leaf, despite everything that has happened. Naruto stated to him as he snapped his fingers and a 7-man squad appeared out of the shadows, each of them wearing different arms and armor, yet all looking as ferocious and dangerous as they could get. Instead, I think I'll just drop these guys off at their village and while I'm out there, make my intentions as clear as it can get to them. If you would permit, Millard, I would like to also accompany you to the Hidden Leaf. Rei asked him. I would like to look into the eyes of those who had left my people to die and make it clear to them that the Uzumaki are not dead and that we have not forgotten or forgiven those who had betrayed us. Very well, as you wish. Naruto told her as he moved closer to Kushina and suddenly touched her neck. What do you think you are doing? She asked him, unable to shake him off. Just looking for that flying Raijin formula that your husband has put on you, and there it is. Naruto said as he found it and then his free hand began to perform a series of hand signs. Hold on to me, Ray. This may be slightly uncomfortable. At that, Ray grabbed onto Naruto by hugging him closely with her free hand, placing it onto his chest with her entire body pressed into his side, while she had quite a smile on her face. The moment Naruto was done with the signs, the area filled with smoke that cleared away almost instantly, revealing a completely clear spot in the park where just moments before was the group of Konoha shinobi, Naruto, Ray and Daimyo's personal bodyguards. Konoha, council chambers. The very next moment, a large puff of smoke appeared right in the middle of the council chambers, and the next moment it cleared out, Naruto realized where he had found himself, and it brought quite a smile upon his face. He was right in the council chambers, right in the moment when they were having another one of their sessions, with the entirety of the council members and even shinobi clan's heirs being present, not to mention the elders and Hokage himself. This was even better than he could have asked, for Naruto was actually quite interested to talk to not just the man who had destroyed his life the first time, but also with all the people who had made his life as a child miserable and nearly unbearable. He glanced around and noticed the shock and utter disbelief on everyone's faces, with the civilian council being unable to even fully comprehend what was happening, while the shinobi council acted in quite a different manner, as did Hokage and the Anbu that were stationed here. The clan heads and many of the present heirs already prepared for a fight, their training skills already kicking in, with only one exception, and that being Hinata Hyuga, who was unable to move even a muscle. Where her father and younger sister already activated the Byakugan and assumed fighting stances, she simply looked at Naruto, and tears began to run down her face, with Naruto seeing clear realization and purest happiness in her eyes. The sight of Hinata crying caused a small painful pang in his heart, for before his mind was altered and nearly broken, he did develop a something akin to crush for the soft-hearted girl. Looking at her now, he couldn't help but notice how she had matured and grew into a woman of beauty and grace, though it was also clear to him that this growth also came with sorrow and sadness for her. Out of all in this village, only she was undoubtedly the one to have mourned him, and he could clearly see how it led to her being ostracized and made into an outcast within her own clan and family. He knew even back then that the Hyuga clan wasn't a place that fit Hinata, and that she was always viewed there as a weak and meek person, unfit to lead their clan in the future, and deserving only to move away for the sake of her sister. That sentiment extended to all of the clan, not just the main branch, but also the side branches as well, for why else would Neji be so ready and willing to kill Hinata, a member of the main branch, if it also meant that he would likely be killed soon after for such a travesty? The answer was as simple as it could be: the clan, or rather its elders in Hiashi, gave him their permission to kill her and therefore rid themselves of the problem that they saw Hinata being. And that thought made him rather angry, angrier than he would have expected himself to get, signaling to him that even after all this time, he still held warm feelings towards Hinata, and just from the way she looked at him, from what he could see in her beautiful eyes. He could tell that for her, he was far more than either friend or object of admiration, but what his wives and Ray saw him. Turning away from Hinata and directing his sight towards Minato, he saw the surprise and shock in his eyes, which quickly retreated and gave way to the concentrated anger and preparation as he saw his wife and the team he had sent bound by the chains of Ray. Naruto realized instantly that to expect him to be shook and staggered would be pointless, but the reaction of the two kids that were near him. Now they were not so quick to get rid of their anger and shock. The boy and a girl, each of them looking like a younger version of their parents, Menma and Natsu, were glaring daggers at Naruto, with Menma practically snarling and prepared to strike him at that moment, while Natsu was far more restrained in her actions and intentions. From just a casual glance it was clear that Natsu was the level-headed one of the two, while Menma was more like him when he was younger, only even worse. When looking at them, he could clearly see the resemblance between them and himself when he was younger, and while he could have thought about how things would have turned out if his parents had made a different decision, it was ultimately pointless and needless. The past was in the past, and he had already died and was cleared away of any attachments towards this family, so beside from anger and controlled hatred that he felt for Kushina and Minato, there was no room for anything else. He was here for a purpose and one that he intended to complete now. The moment Anbu had appeared and prepared to strike him, his bodyguard surrounded him and Ray in a protective manner, while Naruto simply raised his hand and spoke first. "Let's not be so hasty, shall we? I understand that this may be a bit surprising and confusing for you, but despite how it looks, I am actually here simply to talk to you," Naruto told them in a casual tone as he looked at Minato, who already drew out his kunai. I understand that you were trying to find out who I am and what it is that I want. Well, I am here to tell you all exactly that. So, father, or rather, Minato Namikaze, shall we talk? Naruto couldn't help but smile at the surprise on his face. Just who in the world are you, and how did you get in here? Counselor Kaharu rose up from her seat, looking at Naruto with shock. Release these shinobi at once, or face the wrath of the Hidden Leaf Village. Whoever you are, you chose the wrong place to pop up, you bastard. You are right in the heart of the strongest hidden village, and unless you release them, you and your friends will be very sorry for ever getting here. Tsuminazuka practically snarled at Naruto, while he simply sighed, before giving Ray the signal to release them. Good, now die. And at that very moment, the shinobi of the Hidden Leaf in their near-complete entirety leapt into action, while Naruto closed his eyes. Unfortunately for them, the moment they did, they were stopped by some kind of force and then were all pushed backwards, forcing most of them to crash into the wall or floor without the ability to stand up. Only those who had chosen not to attack Naruto were spared that fate, with his former sister Natsu being one such person, alongside his former parents, Hinata and those he just brought here. Letting out a small sigh with close eyes, Naruto opened his eyes, looked at Minato Namikaze, and spoke up again. I did say not to be so hasty. After all, one can never know what your supposed opponent can have hidden in his sleeves. Naruto remarked, before turning his attention to Minato. So, Minato, I understand you were interested in me. Well, here I am in person. Who are you? Minato asked him, with Naruto smirking at him. I think we both know at this point who I am, even if you try denying it in your mind. Naruto answered him, before raising right hand and opening his palm. But, to dispel any remaining doubts, here's a clear proof of who I am. Naruto said, and at that very moment a familiar-looking ball of chakra appeared, shocking all who saw it, with Minato included. Rasengan. But I only taught that technique to select a few, and aside from them, only. Minato realized what Naruto was meaning behind his words, and then realization came crashing down on him. And Naruto? It really is you? Naruto smirked at that, dispelling Rasengan and answering. And who else would I be? A fraud trying to masquerade as someone as insignificant as the supposed demon fox of Konoha. Give me a break. Naruto chuckled at that, while everyone else was reeling from the realization of who it was before them. But how is that even possible? You were dead, Tsunade had personally checked your body, there was no way you could have survived, and even then, we burned you afterwards. Hiruzen Sarutobi said with shock, before Naruto looked into him. You. How did you come back, Naruto? He asked him in shock. Well, I'm not denying that I died, which I did, in fact, after your precious Uchiha ran a Chidori right through my chest. As for how I came back. Does it really matter at this point? The point is that I died and then got back alive 3 years ago, and now I am the Water Daimyo. Naruto simply shrugged his shoulders at that. If you have been alive all this time, then why did you not report back to the Hidden Leaf Village? Did you forget your duty to it? Midokado demanded to know from him. If you really are Naruto Uzumaki, you would have done exactly that, instead trying to play who you can never be and never will be. And why would I return back, especially after my mind was restored to its fullest potential, with all the memories of what this village had done to me? Naruto asked them, revealing that he had full memories of what had been done to him. Why would I go back to living in the slums, being a pawn in your games, and just being a puppet in your hands, when I am now one of the most powerful persons in the world? Besides, I did die for this village, so don't go trying to blame me for disloyalty and treason. Naruto added in a light-hearted manner. Yet you came back, alive and apparently stronger than before, not to mention older. Inoichi said with narrowed eyes, with Naruto shrugging his shoulders at that. Well, me being alive doesn't exactly nullify that I did die for you all, even though I do wish Orochimaru had turned this place into a pile of ashes, but we digress. Naruto said, as he decided to return to the reason he was here. The point is that I am alive, and I am here to clear up the air, so to speak. Despite what you all may assume and believe, I am not here to destroy you all. Quite the contrary, in fact, I am here to talk to you, or rather, make a proposition. And what proposition would that be? That we apologize to you for what was done to you? Never, the Leaf and its people would never sacrifice their pride and honor, especially to a demon like you. One of the civilian counselors shouted at Naruto. Honestly, I would have been surprised if you did, but no. I propose a non-aggression pact between the Hidden Leaf and Kurigakure, as well as our countries in their entirety. Naruto suddenly proposed to them, surprising them all, as this was the last thing that they had expected. Surprising as it may sound to you, but I am not all that interested in seeing you destroyed, despite all that had occurred. In fact, it would be quite a serious inconvenience if we were to become enemies because of our past grievances, especially now when we both have far more pressing matters and enemies that need to be taken care of. I am sure you know who I mean, Minato. Naruto smiled at him with a knowing smile. And you seriously expect us to believe you? After all that has happened, and with the way you just made your way here, not to mention taking hostages just to intimidate us, you dare to talk about peace. Chaozu Akimichi said with distrust towards Naruto, with said man turning towards him. Any normal man would seek vengeance for what was done to you, yet you speak of peace. I do not believe you one bit. To be blunt, I don't really care what you think about me, and as for me bringing along your infiltrators, I've simply decided to bring them along, as a show of goodwill and for the sake of efficiency. Naruto responded. Had I wanted to, I would have had them all sent to the interrogation chambers or executed if I was in a less patient mood. Moreover, let us be real for a second, you all would have done the same without a second of hesitation, unless it would hurt you more in the long run. And what exactly would we receive in return if we were to accept this proposal of yours? Shikaku Nara asked Naruto. What benefits can we gain from this sudden proposition of yours? Well, for starters, you will lose a potential threat to your east and will be able to redirect your efforts to your more pressing matters, like Orochimaru and his Itagakure. Not to mention that your village as well as the Land of Fire as a whole will gain a new trading partner in my country, but along with that, other countries will also be far more open to resume their past relations with you. Naruto stated to them. Grass, Waves, Spring and others, including Suna, will all follow suit and again do business with the Leaf and Land of Fire, and from what I've heard and seen so far, losing all of those allies and trade partners was quite a severe hit to your economy and power. Do you think that we would just accept your proposal because of that? Can you even achieve what you are talking about? Hiashi Hyuga asked Naruto. And what is it that we shinobi clans stand to gain from supporting this notion? The way I see it, you just wish to save yourself from our righteous wrath for the betrayal you've committed against us. The Ashi narrowed his eyes at Naruto, who simply let out a sigh. In case it was not so clear last time, I could have easily taken you all out when you just tried to attack me. Naruto reminded them. Yeah, like hell you would, you failure. Menma decided to speak up. Just you wait, when I and my sis get to you, we will. At that moment, Naruto's eyes met Menma's, and at that moment, the loudmouth shinobi instantly shut up. Go and sit in the corner, boy, while the grown-ups talk. Naruto simply stated to him in a cold tone, before turning to Minato. Now then, Hokage, what say you? It does not take a genius to realize the benefits of having Land of Water as your ally, and with the way Kumo and Iwa are behaving, not to mention Orochimaru, you are dangerously short in terms of allies and are in no short supply of people who would like to see the leaf burn. It's up to you to decide in which of the categories you want me to be. Naruto said to him in a carefree manner. And if I do not accept your offer, what will you do then? Minato asked him, with Naruto shrugging his shoulders at that. Then I guess I will go looking for friends somewhere else, like in Iwa and Kumo. I am sure Inoki and I will have plenty of things bond over, like our shared misgivings with a leaf, or the fact that you, Minato, basically fucked us all up. Naruto replied to him with a small smirk. With all of that binding us together, plus Suna joining in this collective, Leaf would be in a really bad spot when the next great shinobi war begins. You would so readily side with our enemies. You truly have no shame or honor, Naruto. At that remark made by Midokado, Naruto simply chuckled. You forget I am not your shinobi, or rather puppet, anymore. I am Water Daimyo and I am here to discuss business as a grown-up and responsible person, instead of simply trading insults. If you can't manage to keep yourself professional, then leave and stop wasting time, air and our time. Naruto simply dismissed Midokado as if he was nothing, which immediately made the elder angry at him. Enough. Minato spoke up as he finally made a decision, turning to Naruto. What guarantees can you give us that you will keep your word about this pact? At that, Naruto pointed at the infiltrators. That is all the proof you need, Minato. I kept them alive, even Kushina, and mostly out of harm's way. Naruto reminded him, with both of them knowing that this was true, as well as the fact that Leaf needed allies right now. It's up to you to take the offer or reject it. Either way, I've said my piece and returned your people to you, so I say it is time for me to return. What, you are just going to leave, just like that? Jiraiya asked with surprise on his face. Of course. Why else would I waste my time here? Going about trying to destroy this place, killing everyone in sight. If I was after all of that, I wouldn't be here playing diplomat. Naruto noted. Unlike you, pervy sage, I've got a country to rule and people to care about, and I've been away for long enough as it is. Like you actually can rule that country. Ino said with contempt, but Naruto ignored her. You've got 2 weeks to consider my offer and discuss it with your daimyo. My ambassador will deliver that message to him tomorrow morning, so he shall be informed about everything. If you decide to take my offer, send an envoy straight to Kamakura and to my court before the end of the time, and if you do not. At that one, Naruto had a small smile on his face. Well, I guess I'll be entertaining ambassadors from Earth and Lightning. I hear they have quite unique tea ceremonies, and I have recently taken up partaking in those when I have free time. I am curious what properties their ceremonies have. And with that said, Naruto prepared to transport himself, Ray and his escort out of here when Kushina called out to him. "Wait, Naruto, wait." Kushina had managed to gain his attention. "You can't just leave like that. Do you not want to talk to us, your father and…" Kushina tried to speak but was interrupted by Naruto. "I have no need or wish to speak with you, and if I did, what would you want to hear from me, Kushina?" Naruto asked her with a neutral expression, with Kushina saddened by the fact that he was so uninterested in her and her wish. "Besides, what is there for us to say to one another? That what you did was for the good of the leaf, that you are sorry and that you wish to make amends. But we are family and I am your mother, so don't you?" At what Kushina just said, Naruto's eyes narrowed before he spoke up. "We were never family and you and your husband have never been my parents. And even if I wanted to make up with you, it would already be all too late. After all, I did die." Naruto reminded her, deciding not to prolong his stay here. "You have heard my offer, Minato. Make your choice, and when you do, be sure to show your dedication to that course of actions, if you understand what I mean." And at that moment, Naruto and his entourage disappeared from the chambers and from the village. "We should immediately send forces after them. They couldn't have gotten far away from us," one of the civilian counselors demanded before Shikamaru Nara shut him down. "You can forget about it, you'll not be able to catch him or his escorts because that wasn't a body flicker jutsu but a full-on space-time ninjutsu, possibly flying Raijin itself," Shikamaru stated before turning to Kushina. "He must have used Kushina as a conduit to teleport us all here by using the formula to track down the creator of it and then teleporting straight to it. That's how he got here from Kamakura. What a drag, it seems Naruto not only became older, but he is definitely not lacking for new tricks. Is it even possible to use the flying Raijin in such a way?" Shibi Aburam asked, turning to Minato and Hiruzen as the foremost experts on that. I do not know, I never attempted such a thing," Minato admitted before they all suddenly heard a loud crashing noise and felt the ground shake beneath their feet, with the whole building shaking as well. "What in the world is that?" At that moment, a group of 3 Anbu appeared right in front of him. "Lord Hokage, there has been a destruction of village's property just now," Anbu commander stated with awkwardness, as this was clearly not something that he wished to state. "Mere moments ago, 4 out of 5 of Hokage mountain statues. They've been cut off from the mountain and came crashing down." Minato and everyone else looked at them with shock. 4 out of 5, all at the same time, came crashing down? Hiruzen asked with shock in his voice. Have there been any casualties?" "No, fortunately the statues came down without breaking apart into debris and landed as solid pieces. Aside from the large clouds of dust and tremors caused by them, there were no damages done, but the people are bound to panic if they haven't already. And also." At that moment, Anbu commander took out an envelope and gave it to Minato. "This was found on the head of the 5th Hokage, the sole one that is still attached to the mountain." Minato took the envelope and opened it, revealing the letter in it and reading it aloud. "Consider this to be your first and last warning. If you decide to spit at my graciousness and open hand, I will give you the same blade that had severed those heads." Minato read, with the council in shock at that. "Oh, and if you see Tsunade, tell her I said hi and invite her for a visit to Kamakura. I'm sure she and I have so much to catch up on. Sincerely, Naruto Uzumaki, daimyo of Land of Water." And with that said, in one day, Naruto had revived his reputation as the #1 most unpredictable person in the world, and Konoha was left reeling from the shock and effect of his statement. 3 days later. Daimyo meeting chambers. As Naruto had promised, Fire Daimyo had received an official letter from Naruto himself with the proposition attached to it, as well as the notification that the Leaf had already received it as well. It did not take long for Daimyo to react, and as soon as he could, he moved to Konoha to consult with the Hokage and others about it, since it would appear he could not fully make that decision. This was nothing new for the Leaf and its leadership, as they have long since gotten used to the fact that the leader of their country always asked their opinion about such things before making the ultimate decision. This gave them a certain level of influence and power in the decision-making of the entire country, and they were the ones who had influenced Fire Daimyo and his court to impose the new trade regulations on the water in the first place, having been incensed by its increasing riches and influence. They had hoped that in some ways, Naruto would be much the same way, but now they understood that he was a far different kind of daimyo than what they had come to deal with in the past. His predecessors, the Imagawa, were far more self-centered and easily manipulated and made to do the bidding of those who held power in the capital. At first, they thought that Naruto would be the same way as all that came before him, but instead, they learned that he was as decisive and direct as he was different from the boy they knew. He took matters into his own hands instead of relying on others, and it was clear that he held not just strong influence over rebuilt Kurigakure, but was commanding it in a practically direct manner. It took little time for Minato and his council to understand that Naruto was not going to be joking around and he was as serious as they got, and after his little warning, they took to considering his offers seriously. In all honesty, this was the offer that they never expected to receive but were all hoping they would get, as it would solve a great multitude of problems. Ever since the many countries have cut their ties with the Land of Fire, both the country and the hidden village suffered a serious hit to their economy, and with a reduction in trade and resources from abroad came a serious reduction in clients. While they still had their regular clients to rely upon and had the funding from the daimyo court, Konoha still suffered a serious hit to their riches and economy, as they no longer had as many partners to trade with and clients to work for. Hidden villages survived on both the funding from their daimyo, but also on the revenue from the missions, and with a serious decrease in the latter came the funding cuts with the former, as daimyo tried to counter the effects of the loss. This meant that Leaf was not able to maintain such a large force as it did before and had to decrease the number of their active shinobi in the field, mainly firing or moving into the reserve shinobi from civilian families. Unfortunately, this led to many of the Genins and Chuninins to outright leave the Leaf village after they were fired and become mercenaries or bandits, since none of them knew how else to make a living. This in turn led to even more problems that the Leaf had to deal with, and this was further hampering their power and abilities. Naruto's proposition was like a blessing from above, and Leaf was more than eager enough to accept it, given their mounting problems, but they weren't blind enough to simply take it without at least analyzing it. And once they believed they had discerned the true reasons for Naruto to make such an offer, Minato, his elders, as well as Hiruzen, Shikaku, Hiashi, Kushina and Jiraiya, met with Fire Daimyo in the chambers allocated for such occasions. This offer that this ruffian has made. As much as it repulses me to even consider making deals with this upstart, he does offer quite good deals. Daimyo said in a mix of boring and prideful manner, showing his clear obliviousness to all gathered here. And I hear that his country now gets all of the best silks from the east and that just his commoners dress like my nobles do. It would not do for me to dress in rags while his peasants prance about akin to nobles. Daimyo said with indignation. You are entirely correct in that regard, Lord Daimyo. Minato agreed with him. And while it may seem unsightly for a man of your station and lineage to make deals with Naruto, the council and I have long and hard conversed about this entire situation, and we believe that it would be for the benefit of all of the Land of Fire and you personally, if you were to agree to this offer. Really? What are those benefits we would get from working with this lowlife? And do you really expect me to show affirmation to keeping my end of the bargain with him? Daimyo asked with an insulted tone, before opening his fan and blowing it upon himself. Seriously, who does he think he is? Actually, the gall to demand of me, Yasuhide Sakura, a Fire Daimyo, to comply with this upstart and give affirmation to our dealings. My word is all that he needs, and even that is too much. Yes, you are entirely right, Lord Daimyo, and yes, Naruto is nothing more than a low-rank former genin who has turned his back on us and by some mysterious way found his way to become a would-be daimyo. Koharu agreed, before adding. And yet, as Lord Fourth has said, there is a great measure of wealth and power to be gained from cooperating with him. And this agreement needs not to be a long one, and his reign will not be a smooth or long one at that. Koharu said menacingly, gaining the attention of Daimyo. I understand that you have some kind of a plan to deal with him, or something like that. Yasuhide asked them, with Hiruzen answering. Yes, Lord Daimyo. Lord Hokage and all of us have been in deep discussions and contemplation regarding the entire situation and this proposal, and after a prolonged consideration, and regarding what we have managed to obtain through our sources, we have arrived at a certain conclusion. Hiruzen spoke. It is our understanding and belief that this offer that Naruto Uzumaki has made is not a sign of power, but is in all actuality a careful ploy to mask the weakness of him, his regime, made in such a way to appear powerful and strong. Yet, in all actuality, he is, in fact, a ruler who sits atop a fragile throne and who can be toppled if he is not careful. Really? What gave you such an idea? Daimyo asked them. We have known Naruto for a long time, and he was always a loud mouth who liked to blister and make himself appear bigger than he really was. He may have refined his speech and ways of action, but at the end of the day he is still the same loud-mouthed child as he always was. Danzo Shimura spoke up. This entire show was nothing more than a charade, meant to mask the weakness of his regime and power. As you well know, he has slain entire noble families, including the Imagawa clan, just to secure his power, and while the commoners may be on his side, those of the noble class are clearly in a silent uproar with this upheaval in the traditions and status. His sudden openness to dialogue and diplomacy can only be explained by the fact that he is struggling to maintain his power and reign, and is now therefore seeking allies from abroad in order to strengthen his positions. Furthermore, it can also be said that even Kurigakure follows him only in lip service, given the fact that the current Mizukage, Mei Terumi, is rumored to be his concubine. Shikaku Nara stated. Naruto's position is fragile, and a military conflict with anyone right now would see his regime toppled in no time. Then I say we start that very conflict and remove him from the face of the earth once and for all. Daimyo said with more enthusiasm. With all due respect, Lord Daimyo, wars are expensive and can be unpopular, and if we do become the ones who start this conflict, we may actually end up unifying the land of water behind Naruto. Midokado noted, with Yashahide being forced to admit that this was a strong possibility. However, as you have said before, he is an upstart that is undeserving of his station, and only one as powerful and prestigious as you can be trusted to lead a nation like the land of water. Hence, we have all come up with a solution that may satisfy not just you, Lord Daimyo, but also satiate that traitor, Naruto, while also laying the foundation for his eventual downfall. Really? Go ahead, I am eager to hear what you have to offer. Fire Daimyo said, with Minato speaking up. We will take his bait and agree to his proposal and regain access to our former allies and also gain his markets and traders, so we will need to suspend the installed regulations. And as a confirmation and show of our dedication to this treaty, as is customary, we shall send envoys with a plethora of gifts. But also a gift of women. Minato added, getting the attention of Daimyo. Women? You mean you wish for me to send a member of my own bloodline to him, is that it? Daimyo asked him. Even if I had a daughter to begin with, I would sooner sacrifice her on a pyre than to give her to this monkey Daimyo. We do not demand that you sacrifice anyone of great import, Lord Daimyo, only that the chosen concubine be a member, not even a direct one, of your family and possess good enough looks to entice him. She needs not be someone of particular mind or ability, only possessing enough attractiveness to get his attention. Here is an added, with Daimyo thinking about it for a little, before speaking up. Yes, I do have someone that could fit those criteria. A niece of mine, a daughter of my late younger sister and that rebel lord who dared to rise up against me. I have been thinking of ways on how to get rid of her for years now. I was even prepared to just give her to one of my servants as a wife, for she has been such a sore sight for years now. Daimyo said, before blowing his fan. She is unfitting of my family, but she is of at least passable beauty, I was told, and could actually entice that uncouth leech. She will do nicely. Have you decided whom you will send to him as your sacrifice? I hope that it is not Natsu, for we have reached an agreement about her, Minato. No, of course it will not be, Lord Daimyo. Minato assured him. My eldest daughter, Hinata, shall be sent to him as a concubine and gift. She is unfit to be an heiress of Hyuga clan and does not possess anything of value outside of her station, but the demon fox has been known to have a soft spot for her. Hinata too had harbored feelings for him for a long time, hence he will be more than happy to receive her as a gift to satiate his lusts. Hiashi stated to Daimyo. Naturally, Hinata will be removed from the main family and placed into a side branch line, with a cage bird seal placed upon her, as is customary, along with additional seals that will prevent emergence of Hyuga bloodline in their offspring. Are you truly prepared to sacrifice your own eldest child and daughter to such a man, just for the leaf in me? Daimyo asked Hiashi. Hinata is of no use or consequence to me or my clan, and she has proven to be a failure as a shinobi, especially when compared to her younger sister. This is the best use of her that we can come up with. Hiashi said with a cold tone. Think nothing of her, for she is nothing but a means to an end. Very well, but I still do not see why we need to do this. Daimyo said with confusion. As I am certain you are aware, Lord Daimyo, Naruto in all his time as ruler, has failed to produce an heir with any of his women. Your niece and Hinata Hyuga, as well as their accompanying entourage, will ensure that they are the only ones to gain his children, while his first wives and concubine remain childless. Minato continued. But the concubines, we shall be sending our own people to create an effective net of shinobi around him, ready to act at a moment's notice. Once both of the girls have birthed children, Naruto, his wives and their supporters will be quickly and efficiently disposed of, leaving the only legitimate heirs and rulers and his children with your niece and Hinata. And through them and their offspring, you, Lord Daimyo, shall assume complete control over the land of water. After hearing an understanding of what it meant, Yashahide became positively giddy with anticipation. Oh, what a cunning and brilliant plan. Yes, that fool will not know what had hit him. Well done, Minato, I couldn't have come up with a better idea myself. Daimyo praised him. I shall arrange the best gifts for him, make him think that I am all for this idea, and will have Akeno instructed accordingly with what she is to do. She has inherited her mother's looks, so she is bound to get that ruffian's attention, even if compared to my women, she is only a meager and unremarkable so. Anyway, enough about that. Tell me, Minato, how are things with Natsu? I am hoping that the issue with her being a Jinchuriki will be solved soon. It will be, Lord Daimyo. Within a month, all preparations will be completed. Now that Kushina is here again, her half a fox will be removed and planted into Menma, without any harm to her or capabilities as a woman. And once she has made a full recovery, she shall be all prepared to become your daughter-in-law. Minato assured him, with Kushina bowing at that, with Daimyo looking pleased when he heard the news. We are eagerly awaiting the day when she becomes a member of your house, Lord Daimyo. So do I and my son. He is positively enthralled with her beauty and cannot seem able to think of anything else but her. You and your wife have served me most well, and since it is my younger son's wish, I shall be more than pleased to grant your daughter the right to bear our name and his children. Daimyo said with a pleased tone. Although, I am a little concerned with the way she had been responding to the advances of my son. Are you certain that you will be able to rein her in before the wedding? You have nothing to be concerned about, Lord Daimyo. Natsu understands her duty and role she has to play in the grand scheme of things, and I assure you, she will be more than happy and grateful for the grace you shall bestow upon her. Kushina assured him, with Fire Daimyo looking quite pleased with everything, already imagining himself becoming the ruler of two countries at the same time. Land of Water. Minamoto's private estate. Situated at some distance away from Kamakura and busy roads and highways, the private estate of the Minamoto family served as a resort for its members for decades earlier, and now it was a place where Naruto was allowed to enjoy several days of peace and quiet without being disturbed and bothered. Inherited by his first wife, Raikou, she had long since shared the secret of its existence with her husband, and he, as well as all of his wives, have made it their tradition to retreat or to spend time together in a private and intimate manner, just to enjoy their life together. Now was no different, only this time it was Naruto being with Raikou and Asagi, while Mei was away in Kurigakura on an urgent case that popped up. The trio were resting on a bench outside the house, stargazing and relaxing in each other's company, with Naruto in the center, with his wives on either side, resting their heads on his shoulders, enjoying the moment of peace and quiet while it lasted. And yet, like all such things were not meant to last, and the beautiful silence was broken up by a troubled sigh coming from Raikou, with Naruto picking up on her distress. You've been sighing like this ever since we came here, Raikou. Naruto noted softly as he gently ran his hand through her hair. Are you still thinking about Konoha and what they might do? It is hard not to, especially after what you did. Raikou noted as she raised her head and gazed in his eyes. You shouldn't have gone there in person, much less given them such an offer. They are undeserving of it, not after what they had done to you. Raikou said with passion and anger, with Naruto gently reaching his hand and cupping her cheek, immediately melting her anger away. You know, your beauty shines especially brightly when you show your fury on display, Raikou. Naruto complimented his wife, with her embracing his hand. But you have nothing to worry about. Our meeting was meant to happen sooner or later, and as for whatever plan they may come up with, it is nothing that I have not accounted for. You certainly sound quite sure of yourself. Asagi noted, getting his attention. Do be careful your confidence does not become arrogance, for it makes for a poor shield. I shall take care to do so, especially with you always keeping me away from such needless things, my dear. Naruto assured her as he moved a stray lock of hair away from her face gently. Do you think that they will actually accept your proposition? I would expect them to be too proud to admit that they are desperate for help. Raikou noted as she laid on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Of course they are too proud to admit that they need help and need this agreement, so in order to accept this sour pill, they shall come up with a plan to make this agreement into a scheme that will eventually win them the greatest boon possible, Land of Water itself. Naruto told his wives. Konoha and its leadership as well its people have long since come to view themselves as superior in every way, and they believe that they know who I am and how to deal with me. My sudden appearance and show of power will be seen as smoke and mirrors to mask a supposed weakness, and my offer will be discerned as a move of desperation, possibly to stem away those who would wish to destroy me. You mean, they will think that your rule and reign are weak and that the people and nobles are itching to dethrone you and return our land into a state of disorder and chaos? Asagi asked Naruto, who nodded to her, with her chuckling at the idea. They must truly be deluded in their contemplations and conclusions. Do they not know that the people see you as a deity and that the nobles admire and love you for finally restoring peace and bringing them untold prosperity? That is the thing, Asagi, they will see this as falsehoods and propaganda that is spread around by me to make myself appear more than I am. Naruto stated to them. In the past I was known to be quite a loudmouth, full of hot air and blisters, and in their mind, I am still the same old knuckle-headed boy that they are so used to dealing with. Which is something that you used to get them to do what you wanted, did you not? Raikou asked him with a small smile, already knowing the answer. Appear weak when you are strong, and appear strong when you are weak. Someone has taken my advice to heart. I would be a foolish husband to ignore wise advice from my wife. Naruto chuckled as he held Raikou's hand. I still do not understand why go to such lengths if all you want is to get revenge on them for what they've done to you. Or you've forgiven them? Asagi asked him. Forgive them? Never, Asagi, and as for revenge, this is it. Naruto motioned to her and Raikou, confusing her. You, Raikou, Mei, Rei and everyone else, this country and my life right now, this is my revenge upon them. They have humiliated and belittled me, made my life hell, and denied me any right to rise up above the station they set for me, and now I stand above all of them, with a life and meaning that I never could have dreamed of, and most importantly, I have all of you. What better revenge I could ask for than this? Naruto smiled at her, with Asagi smiling back and leaning in to kiss him on his cheek. So all we are for you is just a means to get back at them? Raikou asked him jokingly. What a shallow husband I have. At that moment, Naruto leaned in and captured her lips in a loving kiss, catching Raikou by surprise, yet she did not detach herself away from Naruto. Does my lady require more proof of how deep her husband can be? Naruto asked her once he broke their kiss. She might need a reminder about the full depth of her husband's love. Raikou said, as she leaned in to kiss him again, with Asagi simply shaking her head, waiting for their kiss to end, and then capture Naruto's lips with her own. If she is getting a reminder, then I require it too. Asagi said with a husky tone, with Naruto smiling, before picking both of his wives up at the same time and then carrying them to their bedroom while they giggled along the way, before their giggles were replaced with moans and cries of pleasure, which would not abate until very dawn. A week and 2 days later. Kamakura. Daimyo's palace. Throne room. In the end, Naruto's proposition was accepted, and as a show of goodwill and acceptance, the Fire Daimyo and Konoha have sent quite an array of gifts to show their readiness to this agreement. Jewels and gold, rare teapots and famous swords were among just the few things that were sent here, but what truly caught the attention of Naruto and his court were the women that came along with those gifts. Sending women to become concubines or wives as an affirmation of an agreement was an established tradition that Naruto was familiar with, but he wasn't entirely expecting the Fire Daimyo and Konoha to send them here to him, though this was not unwelcome in his eyes. The sight of Hinata, dressed in the finest kimono and with her beauty in complete display, was something that he definitely imagined, and the reality has beaten his imagination. The shy girl was still under his gaze, daring not to raise her head or to speak up, while Naruto observed and gazed upon her from his seat, admiring the beauty that she has become. Yet he did need to turn away from the object of his initial affections, and when he did he was greeted by the sight of a raven-haired beauty with violet eyes, whose beauty and appeal were enough to rival even some of the goddesses. Unlike Hinata, she dared to look him directly in the eyes, and in them played a wicked fire that promised things that men wished for, yet dared not ask for, but Naruto was not like most men, and Akeno Himejima clearly understood it. Though in the past he was not one to pay much attention to politics and rumors from the Fire Capital, now Naruto made it his job to be informed about such things in detail, for anything that was happening in other lands could have an effect on his own realm. To him, the name of Himejima clan was not unknown, as he was well informed about that once distinguished and prestigious clan, which had been wiped out simply out of the greed and pride of a weak-willed man. The Himejima clan was once one of the principal noble families in Land of Fire, owning vast swaths of fertile and rich lands, and commanding respect and power from their subjects, while also serving as among the more loyal subjects of the Fire Daimyo and court. That had continued for centuries, until Daimyo Yasuhide Sakura, a man whom Naruto considered to be as pathetic as he was foolish, decided to strip the Himejima of their ancestral holdings and land, without having any solid right to it. The Himejima rebelled, and everything seemed to be heading towards a massive internal conflict in the Land of Fire, until the Himejima clan were wiped out in a single night, with only the daughter of the Himejima lord and his wife, the sister of Yasuhide, surviving the attack. That was about 10 years ago, and now that same survivor was here, presented to him as a concubine by her uncle, who was clearly influenced by Konoha's leadership, who also did make a full use of this opportunity. Along with the two ladies, they've sent a large entourage of ladies-in-waiting, servants, cooks, doctors and more, with a great many of these same people being shinobi in disguise, ready and waiting to do their duty. It took Naruto a second to guess what their plan was, and he held himself from smirking at the idea that they would ever have any opportunity to harm him, his wives or their future children. He has already anticipated something like that and has taken care to ensure that all of these infiltrators would not live long enough to take a single breath in the direction of his wives, but that is for later. For now, he had official business to take care of. Our daimyo, Lord Yasuhide Sakura, sends you the best of wishes and regards, Lord Naruto Uzumaki, and has commanded us to inform you that your gracious offer has been accepted. As a confirmation of his gratitude and dedication to this pact, he presents you with two of Land of Fire's most beautiful maidens. The official envoy from Fire Daimyo stated, before turning and presenting the women. Heiress of noble and prestigious Hyuga clan, Hinata Hyuga, famed for her elegant looks and otherworldly beauty, and Lady Akeno Himejima, niece of Fire Daimyo himself and a woman of matchless beauty and grace, unmatched by even the most dedicated ladies of court. Lord Asakura presents you to them to be your concubines and wishes that they bring joy and happiness to you. In addition to them, he also sends you all of the gifts he could gather from his personal treasures, with first among them. I shall look at the trinkets later, thank you. Naruto interrupted him before descending from his throne and moving past the envoy and coming near the two ladies as they bowed on their knees to him. Ladies, do please rise. Such ladies as you have no need to stand on your knees before me, especially when it hides your beauty from the eyes of others. At those words, Akeno rose up at first, looking straight into Naruto's eyes, while Hinata did so with far more nervousness in her movements, daring not to face Naruto directly, something that the envoy did not enjoy. Lord Naruto, please forgive Lady Hinata for her shyness, she is just. The envoy, fearing that this would be taken as an insult, decided to intervene, but Naruto stopped him. There is nothing to be forgiven, for there is no insult made. Now, you and the rest of your entourage, leave us. Naruto commanded him, catching the man off guard, while at the same time secretly giving a sign command to some of his hidden guards. But, my lord, this would be. Naruto did not spare him a single look. Did I stutter? He asked of the envoy with a colder tone, with the man realizing that this was not up to debate. As you wish. And with this said, the throne room was quickly vacated by nearly all of the people, leaving Naruto with Akeno and Hinata, with the former bowing her head before him. Lord Naruto, it is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I have heard many intriguing and interesting things about you, and I must say that most do not do you justice. Akeno said with a smile, with Naruto smiling at her. Lady Akeno, the pleasure is all mine. I must say that I am at a disadvantage, being presented with a woman of your charm and elegance, and meeting her in such conditions. Naruto replied, with Akeno chuckling at that. You need not worry with such things, my lord, for your welcome is the warmest I could have asked for. Akeno answered to him, with Naruto nodding to her, before turning to Hinata. Hinata. Naruto softly called to her, making her shudder a little, before she turned to face him, with a blush appearing on her cheeks, while he smiled at her. I am sorry I was unable to say anything to you back in Konoha, but please know that even all these years apart, you were in my warmest thoughts, and I am very happy to see you once again. My lord, such words air. Hinata stammered as she tried to speak, but Naruto gently put his hand to her cheek and spoke. Please, Hinata. I may be a daimyo to most, but to those who are precious to me, I am still Naruto, so call me that. Naruto told her softly, restoring a bit of her confidence. And Naruto. It is you. Hinata said softly, as the tears began to roll down her cheeks. It is me, Hinata. Naruto confirmed it to her. I see that you and Hinata have already been acquainted. Akeno noted with interest. Yes, she is among the dearer persons to me, from the times when I was not a man than I am now. Naruto replied, before gently rubbing away Hinata's tears with his hand. A woman like you needs not cry before me, Hinata. I know, but I can't help it. She said, as she gently took his hand in her own. All these years, I lived a akin to being in a nightmare, in a world that lost all color and meaning to me. But W with you back. I can't stop thinking that all this is just a dream, and I don't want it to end. Then I won't let it end, Hinata, and this reality is your dream now. Naruto told her softly, finally managing to calm her down. From now and until the end, I shall make it so. Such strong and passionate words. I fear I now feel envious towards Hinata, for even I would wish for a lover to say such things to me. Akeno said with a small giggle. But then again, you two are connected by more than mere affection, that much I can see. I can hope that in your heart there is room for more women wishing for your affection and care. You will find that my heart can encompass quite a few things and people. Naruto assured her, as he gently pulled away from Hinata. But for now, I fear I must ask you to forgive me, but it would seem that I have received a rather unexpected guest, and who I wish to speak to. And at that moment, three figures materialized before Naruto, two of them being his personal shinobi guards, and the other an ordinary-looking serving girl. Millard, as you have commanded, we brought you. One of the guards stated, with Naruto nodding to him. Well done, you may return to your post. And once this was said, the shinobi disappeared from sight. Today seems to be full of surprises for me. First I get to meet these fine ladies, and then I see you among the people who arrived with them. Tell me, does Lord Hokage know that you are here, or is this some sort of personal mission of yours? Naruto asked the girl, who seemed to be quite nervous and unable to manage an answer. Millard, if I have displeased you in some form, I. She spoke with a fearful tone, before Naruto interrupted her. Let's dispense with the illusions. Your transformation is quite good and the act is on point, but when it comes to me, there is nothing that escapes my sight, Natsu. Naruto called with a smile, shocking the girl, and forcing her to transform from the mere servant girl to the daughter 4th Hokage, and one of 9 tails Jinchuriki, Natsu Uzumaki Namikaze. Chapter 4. Natsu has always considered herself to have inherited her father's mind and shrewdness, while her brother had received their mother's willful and wild persona, something that had clashed with her. While she was in Uzumaki and did have certain principles instilled into her at birth, she happened to possess her own mind and will and the ability to think for herself and garner personal wishes and ambitions. Ambitions, which as she had found out, did not go hand in hand with what her family, as well as the closest to them wanted out of her and Menma, and this had become a point of tension between her and the family. While Menma was always more than willing and able to follow the plans their parents and Jiraiya had laid out for them, Natsu was not like that. Instead of simply following them, preferred to question and as for their validity, something that she was not always able to get out of her parents. Over time, this issue grew from a simple wish for understanding things to outright desire for her own life and ability to decide what to do with it, especially after she had learned how their parents had manipulated lives of the entire village for their benefit and worst of all, their abandoned brother, Naruto. She long since knew that to Minato and Kushina, Naruto was nothing more than a sacrifice that was needed to give them time to make Menma and Natsu into what they wanted them to be, and when the news of his premature death came, they were more irritated than saddened, while Menma did not have any feelings towards it whatsoever. Natsu, however, while she never met Naruto, felt saddened for what had happened to him and did think that it was unjust that he was to die like that, being just a pawn in the game she was tired of being a piece of. Natsu's entire life was directed and controlled by her parents, and in their mind, as she understood it, she was nothing more than another pawn to gain even more power for their ridiculous dream of fulfilling a prophecy. For that purpose they've left Naruto, trained and filled their brother heads with their ideas her entire life, and now that Jiraiya and her father deemed that Menma alone would suffice as the so-called child of destiny, they decided to use Natsu in a different way. Having grown up at the Fire Daimyo court and seen for what it really is, she could not stomach the idea of going there and being a concubine or a wife to one of Daimyo's sons, without any prospect of a future was something she couldn't stomach. Therefore, instead of becoming another necessary sacrifice for the good of Konohagakure she fled it, a village that had failed to become her home, and people who were never able to become anything more than strangers. The choice of where to flee came suddenly, after she had finally had a chance to see Naruto, revived and returned from death, only not as a pawn of Konoha, but as a water daimyo, and someone who made them all quake with his mere appearance. When he had appeared, Natsu put a facade of animosity and readiness to fight, but that was only to hide the fact that, the moment she saw him, he had shaken and shook her to the very core. Naruto was a representation of what a true ruler and a man who forged his own path was supposed to be, nothing like her own father and Fire Daimyo, who had left everything in the hands of others. He spoke and carried himself as a true mighty ruler would, showed strength and reason, even though he had every right to fight them. When he spoke, Natsu felt his power and might, and in that moment, in that very room, Naruto was the power, while her father could not even reach up to his shadow. A single meeting was more than enough to convince Natsu that if there is someone who can help her escape her fate, it was him, and so she decided to go to the land of water in secret. The only thing she didn't account for was being discovered and now being forced to reveal herself right now, and so she dispelled her transformation, revealing a girl who would soon be considered a woman. Long and flowing blonde hair reaching to her back, wild and lush, creating a mane like that of a lion, coupled with violet eyes, and a figure many in Konoha were envious of, with a mature body. Full breasts, toned body, strong legs and wide hips, all covered in a brown jacket with black shirt underneath, brown shorts and high boots. She had inherited the mind of her father and a beauty of an Uzumaki, while also gaining an interest in knowledge and learning, strengthening both her mind and body, and now she was here, present before her once brother, who looked at her with a small smile. "How did you recognize me?" Natsu asked him, with Naruto responding. "Your transformation was quite good, and you've chosen a good place to blend in with the scenery, so to speak. You have even gone an extra mile to hide your chakra from any possible censors, something I have to commend you on doing." Naruto spoke with a respectable tone, while Natsu couldn't help but feel pleased at hearing that. "Under normal circumstances, you would have gone unnoticed even by the shinobi of the leaf or most of my guards, be they samurai or shinobi. However, I am not most men, and there are very few things that can hide from me. Still, an excellent attempt at an infiltration, Natsu. You have certainly fared far better than your compatriots from Konoha, they were all too easy to spot. So you do know that there are spies and shinobi from Konoha in the entourages." Natsu was surprised to hear him having figured it out already. "Of course. I was expecting them to send at least a few of their own infiltrators in here to finally gain their own people in Kamakura and Land of Water, and what better opportunity than this one?" Naruto asked her. "I would have been more surprised if they didn't do so, but enough about them. Let's talk about you, and what exactly are you doing here, Natsu? Maybe I am part of the infiltrators, sent in here to make a first-hand record of the situation in Land of Water, and then to report back my findings, using my disguise as a way to sneak around undetected," Natsu suggested, challenging Naruto to make his own conclusions, with him only chuckling at it. "I may have been trained by my parents, but as you have noticed, I am an able infiltrator myself. That you are, however, just because you have the skills for it doesn't mean that Hokage or the council would ever allow you to leave on such a mission, much less come here of all places," Naruto responded, before explaining what he thought. You are one of two Jinchuriki of nine-tailed beast, a symbol of power and might of Konoha, and a guarantee that the other villages do not attack it. As such, it is of utmost importance that you remain somewhere where people can look after you, or rather, watch over you, and this is the last place to do so. Even if you were here on a mission, you would not be here alone, and the escort would treat you in a different manner from a simple serving girl, meaning that they do not know who you really are. My guess is that you have come here out of your own free will, without the blessing or permission of Hokage or even his and Konoha's knowledge, possibly having left a clone or two to simulate you still being there. Have you come here to defect from the leaf? Naruto asked suddenly, shocking Hinata and surprising both Akeno and Natsu. Naruto, why do you think she would do such a thing? Hinata asked him, unable to comprehend the very idea of it happening. Because a girl, who is clever enough to make it all the way here, without being detected by anyone, including censors, wouldn't have come here simply for a talk. Naruto responded, with Natsu again being amazed at how easily he read her. She is not like her mother or brother, where they tried to speak to me when I appeared, she listened, and listened with such intent that I rarely see. In fact, she listened and analyzed what I said better than all of Konoha's council, from the way I saw it in their eyes. And now, she is here. I could be here to try and kill you, since you could obviously be plotting against Konoha. Better to be rid of you sooner rather than later. At that one, Naruto actually laughed aloud. Do you think I am incapable of doing so? Quite the opposite, I think you would have the better chance than anyone in that group behind that door, but I doubt you would have been so bold as to attempt it, at least not without a solid plan of escape. Besides, we both know what would happen if I were to be killed today at the hand of the Leaf Village's Jinchuriki. Naruto could clearly see that Natsu understood what he meant. With all of that out of the way, it leaves only defection, so I have to ask, what is your reason for being here? My lord, I believe I can provide you the answer, if you will hear me. Akeno spoke with a soft tone and a knowing smile, with Naruto turning and giving her permission with a nod. In the time Namika's family were present at the court and served Fire Daimyo, Natsu has become an object of fascination and want of Fire Daimyo's third son, a fact widely known by all in the court, including Daimyo and her parents. Before I left the capital, I heard that Fire Daimyo and Lord Hokage had finalized their decision to have Natsu become the wife of said son, while her parents would solve her fox problem before the wedding. And so, instead of being married to one of Fire Daimyo's sons and living a life that thousands of girls dream of, you have fled Konoha, throwing away your life, duty, family and everything related to it. Naruto turned to Natsu, seeing that Akeno was right on the money. Quite self-centered as a daughter of 4th Hokage, so much so that I am actually impressed. They can marry those thousands that dream about it, but I know what my life would be if I were to be married off to that pig, and I would sooner slit my throat than be forced to lay next to him, or even touch him. Natsu said with a clear poison in her tone. And as for Konoha, it was never my home, and its people have failed to become my own. As for my family, they have made it clear that I am only a means to an end for them now. So you have become unneeded for them as a Jinchuriki, and instead they have found a new purpose for you, and you've decided to resist and rebel against it. Naruto concluded. And so you have come here to me, probably the last person who normally would have helped you, under standard circumstances. Yet you are not a normal person, not like those in Fire Capital and Konoha. I noticed and sensed when you first appeared, and after you made your case, I figured that, at the very least, you would understand me. Natsu said, before recalling what she had learned about his life. Although, it was arrogant of me to assume that our situations are the same, as well as the circumstances. That is true, and I do understand your situation. Clearly, you are not like most Konoha and even your family. You came here and the way you made your conclusions is evidence of that. Naruto said to her. However, I am certain that it goes without saying that your mere presence here puts the agreement I have tried to achieve with Konoha and Fire Country in jeopardy, and that soon, if not already, your absence has been discovered. And once it is discovered, your father and the council will think that either the Akatsuki have gotten a hold of you, or, which in current circumstances is more plausible, they will think that I have kidnapped you. Possibly for personal reasons, or to gain a tailed beast, since it is known that Kurigakure doesn't have one. Maybe, but had you wanted to, you would have gotten a hold of one of such beasts years ago on your own. Natsu noted, with Naruto not denying it. True, but that is beside the point. So, Natsu, tell me, why should I not just send you back to your village, in order to preserve this pact? Naruto asked her. Because first of all, this pact you are making will not last, and you know it better than anyone. Just because you have made the first move does not mean that you actually want it to last longer than you needed. Natsu told Naruto. However, I can see that you won't just let me stay if I ask you, so I can give you something that you do not have. Information. I know about my father's plans and what he, Jiraiya, Council and even Fire Daimyo are planning. In fact, both Hinata and Akeno here were sent to seduce you and to bear your children, and after they were born, the shinobi and their entourages, with the support of the Anbu, would assassinate you and all of your other wives and possible children. After that, Fire Daimyo would assume full control of this country through the children as puppets. After hearing that, Hinata widened her eyes in shock, for she did not know that this was why she really was here, while Akeno simply dropped her smile. What you have just described is what I have already deduced, Natsu. This was one of the more plausible things that Konoha and Fire Daimyo would attempt to do, and I have already been prepared for such an occasion. Naruto revealed it to them, surprising Hinata again by this revelation. And while I am certain you have other things to share with me, I am still debating whether the value of what you have will outweigh the risks I am taking by entertaining you here. I can tell you the reason why father and mother have made you into a sacrifice for Konoha, Naruto. Natsu decided to play this card. Maybe you do not care about getting revenge at this point, but as I am certain you know, information can be a very powerful asset, and this information will reveal to you the mindset of your opponents. Tempting, and while that does sound promising, I can't help but wonder, for what purpose would I keep you? Naruto suddenly asked her. Well, Kurigakure does not have a Jinchuriki, I can't assume the role, since it would jeopardize my plans, and having you here is also out of the question. Speaking of, what is that you yourself really want, Natsu? Me? You are asking me what I want, even though you've already guessed it all. Natsu asked him. I guessed why you came here, but I suspect that it is only a means to an end, isn't it? Naruto asked her, shocking and surprising Natsu, with her deciding to say what he wanted to hear. I want to decide my own life and who I want to be, instead of being someone's pawn or a means to an end for someone. All my life, I've been told that I was special and that my fate in life were already determined, and that if I were to listen to Jiraiya, father and mother, I would fulfill it. At first, it confused me, and I tried to learn more about it, but I didn't get any answers, instead only training, pain and failure at being unable to gain control over the Nine Tails. Natsu began talking. When I had gotten older, I learned about the prophecy that my father and mother are so obsessed over, as well as about you and their plans. I realized that I am not living the life I wanted. I was existing only as an instrument of their design, and all I had learned, was taught and trained, all of it was so that I would do my part in their plan. I grew sick and tired of being a pawn in the hands of parents who think me too willful and rebellious for my own good and who believe that what they are doing is best for all, without considering what I want. I didn't want to be a weapon of Konoha, nor its pawn or Jinchuriki, and now I don't want to be sold like a cow for someone who only cares about my looks and doesn't understand or cares to understand me. To him, I would be just a pretty toy to play with before forgetting about it, worse than it was with my parents. So I ran away, well also with the power of the Nine Tails inside of me, to you, because I was hoping you would understand and help me. Once Natsu had finished with her tale, tears started to well up in her eyes, while Naruto considered what to do before speaking up. Raikou, Asagi, Mei, Rei. He called for his wives, and they appeared from their hiding spots in the throne room, revealing that they had heard and seen all that had transpired. What do you think about it all? From the political standpoint, it would be best to send her back to the Leaf Village, preferably in such a way that it would not cause anyone to think that we had any hand in her absence. Raikou said, with Asagi agreeing, before she took a closer look at Natsu and spoke again with a softer voice. However, there is more than just politics involved, from the looks of things. The decision is ultimately yours, Naruto. We will abide by it. Raikou assured him, with Naruto letting out a sigh, coming to a decision. Yes, you are right, Raikou. Natsu Namikaze's presence in the land of water is a problem, hence why Natsu Namikaze should disappear, wouldn't you agree? Naruto asked her, confusing Natsu and his new concubines quite a bit. Rei, will it be possible for you to hide her within the clan without Konoha learning about her? It will be possible, and from what I have observed, she will have an easy time integrating into it. Rei assured her, shocking Natsu when she heard it. All that is needed is to give her a new name, in place of her old one. Wait, you are actually going to accept me here? What about the threat to the agreement and your plans, and what about the Nine Tails? She immediately asked Naruto, with Mei speaking up. While 9 tails is a valuable price for any village, we of the Kurigakure already have means that would counter tailed beasts, and with our current situation as stable as it is right now, we have no need for them. Even if the war would break out, we would have more than enough forces to fight it effectively and win. Mei assured her with a smile. And as for the risk to the agreement, leave it up to us to deal with it. Why you are actually. Natsu's tears began to fall from her eyes, with Naruto smiling at her. You can relax now, I have made my decision, and when I make it, I stand by it. Now then, you will need a new identity if you are going to be living here in Kamakura, and since you will be in the Uzumaki clan, it would stand to reason for you to use that name, since we still have clansmen who arrive. Naruto told her, with Natsu understanding him. Now then, what name do you wish to have as your own? A name? I don't even know which one to pick. She admitted honestly. Perhaps it would be best to let Naruto do it for you. He is the head of Uzumaki clan and such things are in his domain of decision. Ray said with a smile, with Naruto pondering about it for a second before speaking up. I have decided on the name. Your name shall be Akari Uzumaki. What do you think of it? He asked her, with her accepting it with a smile. Why yes, thank you Naruto. Now Akari Uzumaki thanked Naruto, bowing before him. What is it that you wish for me, Naruto, now that I am? Nothing that you may think I would need or want from someone like you. For now, your job is to settle in your new life and get accustomed to it. Ray will assist and support you during your acclimatization, so do not be afraid to ask her for help and be open to the clan and people to it. Naruto stated to her. As for the information you have about Konoha and its plans, we will talk about it later. Once you have settled in, then you may decide what you wish to do. What do you mean by that? Akira was surprised to hear him say those words. Exactly what it sounds like. It is now your life and it is you who should decide how to live it. I shall not force or demand you to do anything. If I do have need of you, I will first ask you to assist me, not enforce my will. Naruto stated before turning to Akeno and Hinata. The same goes to both of you. You may have been sent here with the expectations of being used by your respective homelands and me, but you have my word that you shall not have to fear for your safety or honor. While you are here, you will be treated by me and everyone else as honored guests and my friends, and you may enjoy all the benefits of it. Hinata and Akeno bowed their heads to it. It is most gracious of you, Millard, but what about your right upon us? Akeno asked him with a suggestive smile. As our lord and daimyo, you do possess the right to make use of me and Lady Hinata in an intimate manner, or a carnal one, should your heart desire it. Shall we be expected to fulfill such wishes, Millard? The flirty tone of Akeno clearly showed that she was more than a little for him to use such rights upon her, while Hinata immediately blushed crimson red and averted her gaze from Naruto. Like I have stated, I will not force you to do anything that you do not wish. Naruto reiterated his earlier statement, with Akeno's gaze gaining a mischievous glint in it. And what if we were not opposed, but rather open and welcome for you to make use of it? Akeno asked him, licking her lips a little bit, showing clearly just how open she was with the idea. You have quite a way of showing your willingness, Lady Akeno. Naruto noted with a smile, while she giggled at his words. We have only just met, yet you already say such things to me. Are you really so dedicated to the purpose your uncle set up, or is this something else? Personally, I couldn't care less about what my uncle wishes for. And while we may have just met, I did make sure to hear and learn as much as I could about you, and after seeing you act and decide things today, as well as display your mind. Akeno took a small pause, as she felt her cheeks set ablaze a little with a blush. I fear that you have now conquered me, in mind, and now my body wishes for you to claim it as your price, my lord. My, what a bold girl. I think we'll get along quite well. Mei said with a suggestive smile, with Raikou simply smiling at that, while Asagi let out a sigh, with Ray chuckling to it. I see that coitus is not something that you are afflicted with. Naruto noted with a small chuckle. If you wish, I can always play coy and bashful, Millard. I am simply far more open-minded to such things and decisive, especially when it is something that I desire and want. Akeno stated with clear passion in her eyes. I can see that. We shall discuss this at a later date, Lady Akeno. I think it is time to inform the envoy that his gift has been accepted. Naruto stated to them before turning to Hinata, and at that moment, his jovial mood soured and disappeared as he looked at her. Hinata, what is wrong? You look. And at that moment, he saw blood trailing down from her nostrils and eyes. Naruto. Was all that she had managed to utter before she was unable to remain standing and fell down, with only Naruto quickly intervening and catching her, gently laying her down on the floor. Guards, lock down the palace and let none get out. Naruto instantly commanded with a booming powerful voice before he turned to Hinata. Hinata, what is wrong? What is this? Naruto's eyes immediately shifted from their normal look to Sharingan, and when he saw what had happened to her, it shook him to the core. With his enhanced vision, he was able to see the chakra in her body fade and disappear as the life in her body was extinguished and gone, and the cause of it all were several hidden seals placed upon her head and hidden by the hair and over her heart. Naruto, having been trained by Madara Uchiha and Amaterasu, was not just familiar with sealing arts, but was their master, and it took him only a second to discern what they were. Suicide seals, specially designed to kill a person upon their activation via a concentrated burst of chakra at a specific point, and in this case those points were the heart and brain. There was not a chance for Hinata to have survived both of those going off at the same time, and Naruto could clearly see that those were not made by her hand or were used by her. He thought he had Konoha and its people figured out, but he underestimated the malice, pride and arrogance of the Hyuga clan, for the formula used in those seals were distinctly similar to those that they utilized in their caged bird seal. They just could not allow themselves to let Hinata go and be happy, especially with someone like him, and so instead of suffering a wound upon their pride, they instead decided to be rid of her, preferably in such a way that it would hurt him. And they had achieved their goal, for Hinata Hyuga, the first person to ever believe in Naruto, treat him as a human being and show him affection and love, to make him an example for herself. Passed away in his own arms, minutes after he had promised her that she would live a life that she dreamed of. A single tear fell from Naruto's face when realization had set in, but sadness and grief gave way to fury and anger that welled in his heart, and this time, there was no quelling it. The Hyuga clan, or rather its main family branch, had just signed their death warrants, and Naruto wasn't going to wait around to collect them. Meanwhile, Konoha Hyuga clan estate. The elders and the clan head, as well as Hanabi Hyuga and most of the main family members, were present at the discussion that regarded their now former heiress and member of the main branch family, Hinata. Though Hanabi was now heiress and was supposed to feel indifferent and even glad towards her older sister's demise, in truth, she was barely containing herself from crying and running away after learning what these people, including her father, had done to her. To sit here and listen to them disparage Hinata like this, as well as openly stating how it was better for her to have died rather than being happy. It showed to Hanabi the true extent of Hyuga clan's rot and depravity that took hold of the main family. Contrary to the beliefs of her father, elders and others, Hanabi never harbored any bad thoughts or feelings towards Hinata, instead adoring and cherishing her like any normal younger sibling would. She did not care if her sister was supposedly weaker than she was in terms of abilities or talent with Byakugan, because instead Hinata had a gentle and kind heart that was the complete opposite of what their father possessed. It was Hinata who had raised Hanabi to be who she was, treated her not as a princess, but as a person, and who was always able to make Hanabi be herself, instead of what her father wanted them to be. Even when they were separated due to Hinata becoming shinobi and Hiashi de facto disowning her, they remained strongly connected and as close as they could be. It was thanks to Hanabi that Hinata had managed to get over her grief and depression, following the death of Naruto Uzumaki and his unjust posthumous treatment by the Leaf, with Hanabi too being saddened by the fact that Sasuke Uchiha killed him. Like her sister, over the time he had become a shinobi, she grew to admire and respect him for his willingness to put himself on the line for his friends and never giving up, and Hanabi had to admit to herself that she had developed a small crush on him. To find out that he was killed by his own teammate, then to see his name mixed with mud, and then to top it all off with the fact that his parents and family were all actually alive and well all this time. Hanabi could not believe just how cruel fate was towards him and grew to despise the leadership of the Leaf for what had been allowed to happen. It would take Hinata years to recover from her loss, as with Hanabi always there to help her and to heal herself from the loss of a person she admired and even aspired to be. Yet, the day when he had returned and showed himself to the council, along with Hinata and Hanabi, who was also present at that event, was one that was etched into her memory. She, along with her sister, couldn't get their eyes away from him, and while his own were directed to Hinata and not to her, Hanabi was more than happy to see him, and to witness him reignited Hinata's soul with but a single look. And when it was announced that Hinata would actually go to Kamakura to him, to be with him as his official concubine, Hanabi couldn't help but be happy for Hinata, seeing as her dream was coming true, while suppressing a small pang of envy and jealousy in her heart. Finally, after all she had to suffer, Hinata could be happy with the man she loved and who would undoubtedly care and love her back. Now it was revealed to her that this was not to be, and that her clan had just potentially started a war between Fire Country and Naruto, and they were sitting here, celebrating what they saw as their major victory over a great enemy. Finally, the main branch has been purified of any remaining weakness, and that worthless mongrel shall learn what happens when he tries to take something that belongs to the Hyuga. Hyuga Hasashi, grandfather of Hinata and Hanabi and father to Hiashi, spoke with pride and a smile. By now, the procession should have reached Kamakura and met with Naruto, and that means that Hinata's time is done. Yes, although it is unfortunate we wouldn't be able to see the look on that mutt's face when he sees his prize fall dead before his very eyes after thinking that he has gotten what he wanted. One of the main family members said with a sinister chuckle. And like any worthless dog, he shall bark and roar all he wants, but in the end, he is nothing but a toothless dog with no fangs to bite. How can you be so certain that he won't retaliate against Konoha for this, and that he won't cancel out the agreement he has made with the Fire Daimyo and Hokage? Hanabi decided to ask what she saw as the most obvious question, as even in her hidden rage and grief, she could understand what will happen when Naruto finds out all about it. If rumors are correct about his military prowess and the amount of forces and powers he can command, then we may well be facing a new great shinobi war. There shouldn't be any war between Konoha and Naruto, Hanabi, because that blistering idiot will not dare to break an agreement he has put so much effort into establishing. Besides, he may indeed bark loud, but he is indeed a toothless dog and who can't even maintain his own power in the land of water. Hasashi stated without a care for consequences. I have it on good authority that all that Naruto can do is only seek for allies and friends in this hour of desperation, and he won't dare to turn the leaf away from him, even after what we have done. And besides, even if he decides to come here complaining, we have all of Konoha ready to stand up for us, with Minato Namikaze more than willing and able to put an end to his unruly offspring. Another elder spoke, with Hanabi seriously doubting it. And even without Konoha, he wouldn't dare to insult or attack the Hyuga clan with his meager and weak forces, or personally for that matter. With our martial prowess and power of Byakugan, we will easily end anyone who would dare to do us harm. And at that moment, all of the people in the room heard some loud commotion going on outside. What is going on out there? I told the nurses to keep the children in their rooms today, so as to not disturb them. Hiashi wasn't able to finish his sentence, as at that moment, 2 guards from Branch family flew through the closed doors of the hall, breaking them apart. From the open gap stepped Naruto Uzumaki in person, dressed not in his fine blue royal clothes, but instead of black and red lacquered armor with white coat over it all, with his trusted sword in his left hand. Stopping not to say a thing, he strode into the hall, caring not a bit for the surprised looks on their faces, nor to even explain himself, as he moved slowly to the center of the room, before reaching it and then having Hisashi speak up. What? What is the meaning of all this? Hisashi cried out, as he and other Hyuga rose up, activating their Byakugan. How dare you barge in here like some thug and… Before Hisashi could finish the sentence, Naruto's right hand reached for his blade and then unsheathed it, taking Hisashi's head in one smooth motion. Before it could even detach from the neck and body and fall down, Naruto went on to give the same treatment to every single elder and main family member present, hacking them down in a single move, decapitating them with such ease that it made him look like he was playing with infants. Hanabi was smart enough to have moved to the far end of the room and not turned against him, instead being subjected to him slaughtering the entire leadership of her clan and making it look as if he wasn't even breaking a sweat. He moved with speed and force that Hanabi couldn't even believe was possible, while Hyuga seemed to have frozen in place and was unable to do anything against this force of nature. In a mere minute, without uttering a single sound or word, Naruto Uzumaki had eradicated nearly all of the main branch family Hyuga clan, leaving only Hanabi and Hiashi alive. Once he was done decapitating the last member before Hiashi, Naruto turned to him, swinging his sword to clean it of the blood it had gathered, before moving to the supposed head of the Hyuga clan. Hiashi, led by primal fear and desire to save his life, stepped backwards and reached the wall behind him, before Naruto reached him and pointed his sword at Hiashi, the tip touching his neck and already cutting it, drawing a little blood. It was only then that Naruto finally spoke up. I have only one question. Did she mean nothing to you, your own daughter? Naruto asked him in an ice-cold tone, his eyes looking directly into Hiashi's. She was a weak and feeble child who was unworthy of her privileges and… Hiashi spoke with fear and stutter, yet unable to lie for some reason, with Naruto having heard enough and thrusting his sword into Hiashi's throat. After he withdrew his blade from it, Hiashi's body fell down onto the floor, staining it with a great amount of blood that kept flowing out of the open wound. Caring not for the dead, Naruto's gaze finally turned to Hanabi, who was all but ready to resign herself to whatever fate awaited her. However, instead of taking her life as well, Naruto simply wiped his blade and finally sheathed it, before speaking to Hanabi. You are Hanabi, Hinata's younger sister, are you not? Naruto asked her with his tone changing to a neutral one. Why yes. Hanabi answered, after compassing and collecting herself. I am. We weren't officially introduced, but I've seen you many times before, before your death and… I know, I've noticed you paying me attention back then, as did your sister. Naruto answered to her, interrupting her panic-induced rambling before it began. Did you know what your father and the elders have done to Hinata? He asked her the question, with Hanabi, finally calm enough to speak normally, answered. Yes. They had her killed, right when she was to meet you. She said with tears in her eyes. I learned about it only now. Had I known that they would. I would have stopped them, but… I believe you, Hanabi. Naruto simply stated to her, surprising Hanabi with his response. Only a blind fool would be unable to see how deeply you loved Hinata. If it were in my power, I would have done everything to save her, bring her back from death. Naruto started with a sad sigh, with Hanabi's eyes seeing his strong expression change to one of deep regret and sadness, seeing how he too was hurt with what had occurred. I know, and thank you, for inspiring her and making her feel alive again. Hanabi said, before she surveyed the room. And for avenging her. I fear. I would not be able to do it on my own, even if I had tried. Maybe. But this is small recompense when compared to who they have taken away from life. Naruto commented as he looked with disgust at the lying bodies. Revenge of such kind is a remedy that doesn't heal, only numbs the pain for a time, before leaving a sensation of emptiness and void, while blinding the mind and soul. Such a thing is rarely worth bothering to achieve, and now that they are dead, I can see that I was right in that regard. Then this is a Hanabi realized that this was not something he had done with any serious planning ahead. It was a moment when my mind was silenced by my rage, and now it has passed. Naruto let out a sigh before turning towards the exit. I've left those members of Hyuga who were on my way here alive. Will you be able to get what is left of your clan under control? I will be. Hanabi told him, with Naruto nodding to her and moving to leave. Naruto. She called out to him, making him stop in his tracks and turn to him. I don't know if Hinata had been able to tell you before they took her way, but all this time. She always loved you, Naruto, and no matter what had happened. Hanabi said to him with sadness in her eyes, with her seeing a glint of grief in his eyes. I know. And I'm sorry I will not be able to return her feelings now. Naruto responded. Thank you Hanabi. Farewell. And with this, Water Daimyo disappeared from the room. Minutes later the Hyuga estate would be swarming with shinobi and Anbu, with Hokage and much of his council arriving as well to learn of what had happened. When they witnessed the massacre that had taken place and demanded to know the identity of the culprit, Hanabi Hyuga, who by then had fully regained her senses, stated to them that this was an internal matter of the Hyuga clan and that the Leaf had no business getting involved in it. The tone and manner in which she had addressed them was not one of a princess or a figurehead like Hiashi, but one that belonged to a real leader and head of Hyuga clan, while Hokage and council demanded explanations from her. Hanabi only stated that what had transpired was a matter that needed to be solved in the clan for generations now, and she was glad it was done, and as for who had done, all she said that it was someone she considered to be closer to her than her own father was. It would only be 2 days later when the news about the incident in Kamakura Palace reached the council, and that would finally put all of the pieces in place. Still, despite what had transpired, Naruto Uzumaki would still hold true to his word, and the pact would be signed, despite the attempts by the Hyuga clan to jeopardize it all. And at the same time, Hanabi would fully assume the leadership role of Hyuga clan, with her first edict to enact being the abolishment of the branch family system and complete freedom of the Hyuga from the caged bird seal. With nearly all of the main family dead, there were none who would dare to oppose her decision, and finally, after centuries of division and strife, the Hyuga clan was reunited into one family, with Hanabi as its leader. Her next ambition and decision would prove to be even more ambitious and daring than the one she made before, for it would shake the very foundation of the Land of Fire and Konoha in the weeks to come. 2 weeks later. Land of Wind. Hidden Sand Village. Not for the first time Temari of the Sand was silently cursing in her head the situation that her family and village have found themselves in right now. While she was away on a mission to the river's capital as an envy of Gaara, the Hidden Sand came under the attack of the Akatsuki, with Gaara responding and fighting one of them personally, doing all in his power to prevent him from harming the village. While initially everything seemed to be going smoothly and Gaara was winning, the tables had soon turned and he was disabled and captured by the Akatsuki. In addition, if that was not bad enough, Kankuro, without waiting for any reinforcements or support, headed out after the Akatsuki himself and was only discovered in the morning, beaten, wounded and poisoned, with his puppets in ruins. Temari herself arrived about the same time in the village and found its leadership in a state of indecisiveness and unable to come up with a solid enough plan on what to do. Quickly taking charge of things, Temari assumed the temporary leadership role as she was one of the higher-ranking jonins in the village, as well as being the elder sister of Gaara. She immediately sent out squads to search and pursue Gaara, while also making sure to keep their borders secure, given that Iwagakure's shinobi in recent years have become a bit too restless for their liking. As for Kankuro, he was immediately sent to the hospital to be treated, and while the poison that was infecting him was not known to even their elder siblings, Temari was lucky to have brought along with her from her travels none other than Tsunade Senju herself. The former 5th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village was on her way back from an old shrine of Senju clan to pay respects to her ancestors when she ran into Temari in River's capital. Offering her to visit the Sand Village as a gesture of friendship. Perhaps it was some kind of a divine intervention that had taken place back then, but right now Temari didn't care and was simply happy to have Tsunade healing Kankuro. She was surprised at how quickly the former 5th Hokage was able to take charge of the situation in the hospital, deduce the properties of the poison's effect, and then get on to getting it out of Kankuro, proving to all who saw her that she was indeed the best healer in the entire world. In the meantime, Temari was stuck dealing with the council after she had learned that they had acted behind her back in a way she really hated. Who gave you the right to request immediate assistance from the Leaf Village? I have made it absolutely clear that we should not get them involved in this matter. Temari was practically fuming at the fact that her direct order was ignored. You may have given us such an order, Temari, but you are not our Kazekage, and your personal feelings are clearly clouding your judgment at this very moment. We all know that out of all the villages, it is the Leaf who are the most available to help us at the moment, and they have the most amount of information in regards to the Akatsuki. Furthermore, they have already replied and informed us that they already have a team headed our way to help bolster our ranks against the Akatsuki, who had left prior to the attack. One of the counselors, who was a pro-Leaf supporter, stated. To turn down their assistance right now would be at the very least a foolish move, especially considering how Lord Kazukiage has been making ventures to restore our relations with them. This occasion could serve as a means to finally stabilize our relations. Maybe so, but why didn't they relay to us the information about the Akatsuki coming here if they knew about it beforehand? That would have gone a long way to establishing those relations you are so worried about. Tamari noted with a glare. And while we may be again on speaking terms, Kazukiage has made it abundantly clear that we are not yet allies, and that to trust the Leaf and allow them to participate in our matters more than they already do would be foolish. Which, in the opinion of me and several of the members of this council, is a decision that was made unwisely and in the current circumstances, has no valid power behind itself. The same councillor responded, nearly making Tamari take out her fan and blasting him out of here. And besides, it is clear that Lord Kazukiage has made such a decision only because of one thing, and that is because he was smart enough to realize that to blindly trust Konoha, or in your case, play their advocate as you do now, is an error we cannot afford to let happen. A different councillor spoke up, one who was firmly in Gaara's camp. You have acted without the consent of either Lady Tamari or the council's knowledge, since not all of us were present when you've made that decision. I hope you realize just what that means for you when Lord Kazukiage returns. More like if he returns. The councillor replied. Careful with your words, councillor. You are already treading on thin ice as it is, and one more wrong word, and nobody will be willing to save you. Tamari threatened him. And as for assistance, since it is clear that this council, or at least part of it, is unable to effectively cooperate with the leadership of this village, I have taken liberty and called in assistance from our more trustworthy and notable ally, Kurigakure. The FT, it would take at least 5 days for them to reach our village, and even if they do send help, do you honestly think that they will dispatch someone who will actually be able to help us? The councillor asked in an almost mocking manner before the door into the chambers opened. What is this? Don't you know that we are having an important discussion and we are not to having discussions while your Kazukiage is missing, instead of doing everything you can to find him, or at the very least, secure the village from any potential attack. Naruto Uzumaki, dressed in his armor and with his weapon on him, stepped inside, while accompanied by 3 of his bodyguards, shocking everyone inside, including Tamari. I see that the council here and Konoha have quite a few things in common. Lord Uzumaki what are you doing here? One of the younger Jonins rose up in shock and addressed him. Providing assistance, as was requested by your current de facto Kazukiage, while Gaara is captured. Naruto responded, before turning to Tamari. No offense, Tamari, I'd rather not waste time, so fill me in on what had happened. Alright, follow me, I'll tell you everything on the way to the hospital wing. Tamari got over her shock and moved to Naruto, prepared to leave the chambers, when Konoha, a supporting councillor, rose up in protest. This is outrageous. You do not seriously expect Tsunade to accept assistance from a daimyo of another country. This is not how things are supposed to be. He was practically wrecking his brain, trying to come up with excuses, with Naruto not sparing him a glance, before he, Tamari and his guards left the chambers. What an interesting chap. Such a shame I don't have any of his kind at my court and council. Naruto sarcastically noted with a chuckle, with Tamari chuckling to it. He has been in Konoha's pocket since the day we signed the peace treaty after the invasion, we've known about it for a long time. Tamari said, before letting out a sigh. Thank you, Naruto, for coming. When I had sent that request, I will admit that I didn't expect you personally to respond so fast at that. Then it seems fate is on your side today, Tamari, because normally I wouldn't have found out about your request so soon. I was Kurigakure, inspecting the shinobi forces and their readiness for combat, when your letter arrived. Once it was deciphered and I was informed of their contents, I didn't waste time and grabbed only my most immediate guards and teleported here. Naruto explained to her. Gaara is a very good friend and is dear to me, and I am not in the habit of letting such friends like him get hurt. I know, and had it been you, Gaara would personally see to it that you were rescued. Tamari assured him, with Naruto nodding to him. Anyway, this is what we know so far. And with this she went on to explain what she knew at the moment, with Naruto listening intently to her. Those clay bombs you have mentioned. Kai, wasn't there some rogue Iwa shinobi who specialized in that? He was reported to have made several appearances during the Civil War, if my memory serves me right. Naruto asked the sole female guard that was accompanying him. Yes, Deidara of the Hidden Rock Village. He was a prominent member of Iwa's Saboteur Corps, or the Explosion Corps, as it is also known, being a specialist in utilizing special clay for explosives, which he could manipulate and make it take many different physical properties. Kai Uzumaki, an ninjutsu specialist from Uzumaki clan, a red-haired woman with dark brown eyes, dressed in light armor of black color, responded. He was considered a prodigy and a genius when it came to demolitions and explosives, but was also somewhat unhinged and obsessed with what he called his art, namely the explosives. In the end, he went on to bomb his own village just as a show of his mastery and art, and since then he became a rogue shinobi. The bombs that you've just described are something that only he could possibly make. He was the one who had attacked and defeated Gaara. Does he also have a proficiency with poisons, by any chance? Temari asked her, with Kai shaking her head. No, he is solely dedicated to his own explosives, so poisons would be out of his reach. Kai responded. Then one who had fought Kankura was Dodara's partner and the one who had slaughtered the unit we placed on the wall, while also placing traps in there as well. Temari noted. When he was found, he didn't have many injuries, but it was clear that he was poisoned and our experts couldn't identify the poison. That is unusual. I was under the impression that Suna had the best experts when it came to poisons and antidotes. Naruto noted, with Temari nodding to him. If you couldn't identify the poison, how are you dealing with it? I was fortunate to have met former Lady Hokage herself, Tsunade, and she decided to come to Suna with me after I've invited her. When we arrived, Kankura was just brought in and she took full charge of the situation and went on to treat him almost immediately. I can't thank her enough for this. Temari said with a sigh, with Naruto looking a bit surprised at her. You haven't talked to Tsunade since you came back? No, though I have been trying to track her down when I had the opportunity and resources to spare, but it proved to be a wasted effort since she all but disappeared from the face of the earth, it seemed. Naruto admitted. All I knew is that she had left Konoha almost immediately after my death, but after that nothing. I think even Jiraiya's spies lost her. Well, while we were on our way here, she told me that she had decided to get away from Konoha and shinobi in general, so she went to the ancestral lands of Senju clan and stayed there for the past 3 years, having very little contact with the outside world. From my understanding, the region she was staying was quite some way away from civilization and only sparse villages populated it. It's pretty hard for any kind of news or information to make its way there. Temari told Naruto, who nodded to her. She did say that she heard rumors that there was a new daimyo in the Land of Water and that he was supposedly in Uzumaki, but aside from that she didn't hear much else. Well, I'm already imagining her surprise when she finds out what I have been up to. Naruto said with a small smile before they reached the hospital room. This is it? Yes. Let's go. Temari said and opened the door into the room where Tsunade was already largely done with the operation. How is he, Tsunade? Temari asked of her, with Naruto stepping inside with her, observing Tsunade wipe off the sweat off her brows. We were lucky to have arrived when we did, since the poison didn't spread far in his organism and I've already purged it out of him. A few days rest and he should be as good as new, and with the poison I have here, I'll make us the antidote to counter it. Tsunade responded to Temari, before noticing the smiling Naruto looking at her, confusing her. What's with the stupid grin, samurai, and who are you for that matter? Don't tell me that while I was gone you've started going a bit blank in the mind, Tsunade. Naruto chuckled, with Tsunade furrowing her brow at his words. Well, how about I'll refresh your memory a bit? Naruto stepped closer to her and then flicked her forehead with his finger, forcing Tsunade to yelp out of pain and grab the hit spot. Ah, what the hell are you doing? Damn, that one hurt. Tsunade said as rubbed a sore spot before turning with a furious expression towards him. How is that supposed to refresh my memory? Maybe if I punch you in the same spot I'll remember you better. Tsunade said with an irate tone, to which Naruto simply chuckled. Thanks, but my forehead is still sore from the last time you've hit it, Grandma. Naruto responded in his signature manner, with Tsunade's eyes widening as she recognized the speech pattern and tone. You can call it a return of the favor. And by the way, do you still have that necklace you lost to me? If so, I'd like it back since it is mine, given that you lost that bet with Rasengan. That bet? No, it can't be. And Naruto? Tsunade asked tentatively, with Naruto smiling at her. It can't be you, I've personally checked your body while you were dead, and then. How is this possible? No, this has to be some kind of a trick, be by Orochimaru, or. Tsunade tried to find an explanation for it, with Temari deciding to step in. Lady Tsunade, believe me, it was a shock for me and my brothers too, but this is Naruto, the real and the only one. Temari confirmed it to Tsunade. We don't know how, but he did come back from death and he has been our most trusted ally and friend ever since we learned he was alive. I'm sorry I did not mention or tell you about it, I had thought that you already knew and didn't feel the need to bring up the matter. Alright, if you are the real Naruto, then answer this. What was your life's goal? Tsunade asked him, with Naruto blinking at her with surprise. And I don't mean being Hokage. What really Naruto had always wanted. To be acknowledged by people and to finally be respected by them. Naruto answered, with Tsunade finally accepting that it was him. And the mission is accomplished now. Naruto. Tsunade couldn't keep her tears away and walked to him and embraced him. It really is you. But how? Yeah, it is me, Grandma. Naruto assured her, hugging her back before they broke it up a minute later, with Naruto telling Tsunade, I promise I will explain everything to you, down to the last detail, but right now Gaara needs our help. Is Kankuro in any condition to talk? Ugh, finally you've remembered me. Kankuro said with weakness in his voice, drawing attention to himself. And here I was starting to get comfortable, watching this family drama and all that. Kankuro jokingly stated. And that's coming from a man who borrows his sister's makeup. Naruto joked back. How are you feeling, Kankuro? Feeling like shit, but I'm alive and that's already something. Kankuro responded. I'm guessing you are here because Tamari called you. I have gotten a bit over my head in this one, but I did manage to snatch a piece of cloth from one of them with one of my puppets. If you have any trackers with you or summons with a good sense of smell, you'll be able to catch up to them soon enough. One of my guards has a summon who can do the trick. Good work, Kankuro. We'll have Gaara back in no time. Naruto assured him. Yeah, and one more thing. The guy I was fighting and the partner of that bomber was once one of our own shinobi, Sasori of the Red Sand. You've seen my puppets and how I use them, well he is the one who made them and he is the very best puppet master of our village, not to mention one of its best poison specialists. Kankuro told him. When I was fighting him, it appeared as if I was fighting a puppet, so I'm guessing that he himself is inside the puppet, controlling it from the safety of that shell. I'm telling you, Naruto, he is really dangerous, so don't go underestimating him. Well, good thing that I'm even more dangerous than he is. Naruto responded with a carefree smile. Get some rest, Kankuro. Kai, get that piece of cloth he was talking about and have your eagles track the Akatsuki down. Naruto commanded her, with the Uzumaki shinobi immediately bowing her head before leaving to do just that. That could take some time. What are you going to do in the meantime? Tsunade asked him, with Naruto turning towards her. Up for a drink? He asked her without a pause. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoy it. Turn on that bell notification. Like, subscribe and comment down below. And also check out the others videos I have created and enjoyed it. See you guys next video.